Hi, Lawrence. How you doing?
Well, all right, yeah. Another week, another crocodile.
Glad to see you again. We've had a pretty exciting week this week. We've started talking about Antarctica again and had quite a bit of pushback from several people and getting the old "you're an agent, you're a shill" thing going again because, every time we touch on a subject that's a touchy subject, especially to the AE map cotillion, then we get busted on
Well, that's
for
it. Yeah.
going there. So this is the post. Let me share this screen, and this is the post that I made on Facebook this week, talking about Antarctica, a year on the ice, and this was a documentary that was um, from a guy from actually a filmmaker from California, and I guess via New Zealand, he went to the New Zealand area of Antarctica, and so this is an award-winning documentary. You can see all the awards here at the top. So this guy has a reputation to concern himself with, I would say, and why he would attempt to make anything that was untrue or add anything in there that could be found later to be ambiguous or faked. But this is the guy who made the 24-hour time-lapse video that I won't show for fear of getting another copyright strike, but you can actually watch it. And it's the one where he has, I'm sure lots of people have seen it. It's the one where he has here's all of his awards and reviews. Best documentary, extraordinary achievement that reinvigorates our sense of wonder, worthy of an Oscar. So the interesting part is that he made this short couple of minute with credits at the beginning and the end that talk about his show the sun for 24 hours above the horizon, going in a circle around the camera, meaning the camera moves as the sun moves. It follows the sun by degrees. And so I posted this video of the time lapse, and all hell broke loose. People, oh, that's fake. That video's fake. That's fake. And I'm like, what about it's fake? How do you prove it's fake? What's the matter with it? I mean, it's got the clock right there on the video. It shows the camera contraption set up where it's got a timer that every 2 seconds it takes another photo and moves the camera around to follow the sun. Okay, so what's fake? Because the sun doesn't do that in Antarctica. It's not up for 24 hours, anywhere. Well, how do you know? Have you been there? No. Well, other people have said it, not just this guy, not just this film. So what's the problem with that? Because on an AE map, you can't possibly have 24-hour sunlight in Antarctica. Why? What's the problem? And that's when you get the crickets, because then they know that with the AE map and the model with the sun going around in a circle, that it can't possibly be up above the horizon 24 hours in a day, even in it only happens over what, a few weeks, a month in certain parts of Antarctica. Nobody even knows if it does that everywhere in Antarctica. So we got slammed all week for talking about this. And it's like, I feel like I'm in M. Night Shyamalan's movie, The Village, where, things we don't speak of. Well, what are you afraid of? If you truly are a flat Earth researcher, you cannot run from evidence. I mean, you have to look at all the data, and just because it doesn't fit into your hypothesis doesn't mean it isn't true. So you're kind of going about it the wrong way if this is your attitude. What you need to do is you need to examine all the evidence, whether it fits your current or wannabe hypothesis or not, and either make it fit. If it's an observation, if it's testable, if it's repeatable, then you have to fit it into the hypothesis, and it just can't fit into the AE map and model. So what do you have on that, Lawrence?
Yeah, well, I spent quite a bit of time this week digging into Antarctica and to try and find bits of information that will help put together the jigsaw to find out, how things really are. And I found a very interesting one. Now, this is going to be my biggest news of this week, so I might as well start with the best first. I need to do
can you hold on 1 second, because we need to clear one up, I think, before we go any further. And I just want to share my screen for a second and address this one, and have you talk
on my hand
for a second, because that's what we started the show with last week, was talking about the Times New Roman font on the Gleason map. So I made this little meme for you as a little joke, because you and I, we're friends and we can joke at each other. So for those of you out there who got your panties in a wad over the font thing, I believe if you play it back, you will be able to see that, Lawrence felt pretty sure that was the Times New Roman font. I didn't think so much, but neither one of us, were 100% certain by the end of the show. After the fact, quite a few people made, some serious comments and remarks about it, probably more than any other assertion that we've ever made or anybody's made on the show. So that says in and of itself that Lawrence may have been in error on that one. So what do you got to say about that, Lawrence?
Yeah, well, when I first saw it and I looked at it, I was looking at the individual letters, and they've got these things called serifs, these wavy bits, on the end of each letter, and they, sometimes they're underlined or thick or double underlined. And the Times New Roman had exactly the same as one as the Gleason. But when you look at it, when you enlarge it really large, the serifs are identical, but they're not the same. Well, they're in the same places on each letter, but they're not identical in the way that they kink or curve. There's a few subtle differences here and there. And I did some further research into Times Roman, and there's many, many versions of Times New Roman, including some that I think people, they develop it themselves, but they use the Times New Roman and other fonts as the basics. But Times New Roman is probably one of the most popular fonts of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't surprise me if they took Times New Roman as a starting point and then tweaked it a little bit and used that. But on the Gleason map, there's other fonts as well. And we had a lot of discussion about it, and nobody could actually identify the correct font. There's even some software where you can actually go through all the letters, and it asks you, does it kink this way? Does it kink that way? And you go through it all. But because we haven't got the full alphabet to go at, it couldn't match it with anything.
Well, there's also quite a few font makers who make commercial fonts that are for sale, that you actually can't buy, you can't download, and you can't see unless you buy the package of that particular font or group of fonts from these font makers. So if that in fact was some commercial font, then you could put it through every font checking application there is, and you probably wouldn't be able to identify it unless it's one that is open to the public to view, to download, to copy, and so on. So Much ado about nothing, but that I just want to commend you for, putting your hand up and saying, no, I was in error, no big deal, no harm, no foul. And it's interesting that of all the comments that came in afterward, where people's like, oh, Lawrence, you're out of your mind, you're crazy, you're an idiot, you're all that, because that's not the right font. And then when we said, can you identify the font? Would you be helpful to help us to identify the font? Wouldn't that help everyone now that it's been brought up? And then, of course, like always, crickets. Nobody came forward with any other option for what that font is, or it's just not Times New Roman. Okay, enough said. Yeah. So Lawrence stands corrected. It was not Times New Roman, but it just shows you the dedication Lawrence has to getting to the root of everything. He never misses anything. So.
It was a new line of research, yeah.
New line of research. Anyway,
I've got a corker for you this week.
Okay.
And you're going to love this. So I hope that Bob Xanadu and Jeren and Antonio Subirats, hope you're watching this, guys, because you're going to look pretty stupid by the time I finish this little presentation.
Oh, don't say stupid. Don't say stupid.
All right,
say you could say anything but stupid. Let's see. What can you say? Maybe perhaps a little lazy on the research, or haven't investigated this avenue yet, or there's lots of other ways to say it, but we're going to try to clean that up a little bit.
Well, okay, so let's get this on the road. Okay, so I was doing some digging. I was looking at flat earth blogs, trying to find some clues or, help put together a picture of how these people actually get to Antarctica and so on and so forth, and what they do when they get there.
Share it.
So let me just bring this one up here. Okay, so this is the blog of, what's the guy's name? Jeffrey Dunnenfield. And he went to the one at 90 degrees, which is the Amundsen Scott research station. That's the furthest one, 90 degrees is as far as they go. So if we just pan through his blog to the bit that I found interesting. This is some pictures of the station. He was asked how he got the job in there, went through all that.
What is his job actually, Lawrence?
Oh, I wasn't really interested in what his job was. I was interested in how he got there more than anything.
I read the whole thing, and his job was as a breakfast cook.
Okay.
At the station. And he actually had to go through quite a bit to get that job. Those jobs are very hard to get. And they're usually for a year or for 6 months. And he also has other jobs, which is things like helping with tours when people come to tour there. He's a tour guide at the facility, and so on. So go ahead. Okay,
so this was the bit that caught my attention when they asked him, how did you actually get down to the South Pole Station from the United States? So it tells you the route he took. So he got commercial flights from Denver, these are the airport codes, to SFO, which is San Francisco, and then San Francisco to LAX, which is Los Angeles, then from Los Angeles to Sydney, then from Sydney to CHC, which is Christchurch in New Zealand, and then he got 2 flights from New Zealand. The first one took him to McMurdo base, and then he got a second flight from McMurdo to the South Pole. So I thought, right, that looks interesting. I'm going to plot this out on the Gleason map to see whether it makes any sense. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to bring up the Gleason map and plot it out for you live so you can actually see where this guy went. So I've marked in where these places are, and you can go and check these things yourself. All the longitudes and latitudes, some of them are actually marked on the map anyway, but the longitudes and latitudes of these Antarctic bases, they're all common knowledge, and you can access them on the internet. So just bear with me a second and I'll bring up this live in progress. So I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so you can see it better. Okay. So can we do it? Hang on. Yeah. So we started off in Denver. So you can't see that. Let's make it a bit bigger. Bring it down a bit. There we are. So Denver is there. Let's make it a bit bigger again. In. There we are. So there's Denver. So you can see I've got the right place. And then he went from Denver, let's draw a line, to San Francisco. So there's Denver. And there's San Francisco. And then he went from San Francisco to Los Angeles, which is there. Okay, and then he went from Los Angeles to Sydney. I'll have to shrink it a bit now so I can see where Sydney is. A bit smaller. I can only see that. Okay, so he's going from San Francisco to Sydney. So let me just go back there and see where I've got my point. It's there, isn't it? There we go. There, San Francisco. Sorry, from Los Angeles to Sydney. So let's draw a line from there to there. There's the line again. So there's LA or thereabouts, all the way up to Sydney. Okay, that's where the flight went. And then the Sydney, it went to Christchurch, which is the lower island of the two New Zealand islands. So he went down to there, yeah, to Christchurch. And they went from Christchurch to the... So these were all, up to Christchurch, were all regular commercial flights. Then he went on a military flight to McMurdo, which is there. You know, it's not as far in as into the so-called ice wall as Amundsen. And then it went from McMurdo all the way across the world to Amundsen Scott. So it's 25,000 miles across, plus probably another 20,000 miles it went that way. It's done about 40,000 miles.
Oh, that is so funny. I'm sorry to be laughing, but you know what? That is just hilarious. Okay, can you go ahead then and draw a line from Denver, or let's just say let's go from Denver to New York to Amundsen Scott.
All right, I can't quite. There's Denver.
Well, no, I know it's pretty small, but just get it there somewhere.
About there.
Yeah, about there.
All right, so to there.
And then to Amundsen Scott.
Wow, yeah, it's a lot closer, isn't it?
Boy, that makes a lot more sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, they went completely in the wrong direction for about 20,000 miles, and then they flew another 24,901 miles or whatever it is across the entire Gleason map.
And how many people say, Lawrence, that this map is used for navigation?
Well, you see, Bob Xanadu says, well, there's a few faults with it, but with a bit of tweaking, we can make it work. And same as Jeremy will say, well, it's not exactly perfect, but it's the best we've got. This is what they're all saying. You know, it's not perfect. We know it's not perfect, but it's the best we've got. And we need to stick with this till something better comes along.
Okay. So in the meantime, let's see, when did I first see this map? Maybe not even this map. Let's go to the AE map as an example. First time I saw it was when I first got into the flat earth movement, if you want to call it that, back in February, March of last year, of 2015. And that was the map, AE map. This is the map of the flat earth.
Laurie, the last two flights were in commercial planes that had got a very low range. Yeah, they've only got a maximum range of about 2,000 or 3,000 miles. They were the LC-30s, the Hercules, and their range is a few thousand miles. So that McMurdo flight would have had to be, a record, 25,000 miles non-stop in a propeller plane.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you plotted this on the Diamond Collignon map, Lawrence?
Well, let's bring one up, shall we?
Okay.
Okay.
But as I was saying, we're well over a year and a half of having begun this flat Earth mission with most of these people. And they're still making excuses, and they're still saying that this map can be tweaked, but it's the best we've got, instead of you know, it's I may use this analogy all the time of, you know, the little book that you read 20 years ago called Who Moved My Cheese, where they were, you know, never gave up on the little site where the cheese always was every day until suddenly there was no cheese there anymore, and then they didn't know what to do. Well, if we've known for a long time now that this map, it is unworkable and has its flaws, then instead of giving up on it and trying to find the proper map, we just keep using it and saying we're going to tweak it, and nobody can tweak it to the point where it works ever, because it can't work. And this just so happens to be the map that was implanted into the flat earth movement a very long time ago by this gentleman by the name of Robotham. It was the map that was originally used and created with the original Flat Earth Society. And everybody knows that the Flat Earth Society is a disinformation site, but yet it's their map and we're using it. So show me magically how this light works on the diamond map, Lawrence.
Well, they would have gone down beneath somewhere around about there and then come out there. They went to New Zealand because that's where the bases are to go out there, and then it went from there, presumably. Oops, sorry. That way.
Wait, you missed one of the stations. You missed McMurdo. You went straight to.
Oh, sorry. Let me just bring up another one. McMurdo. I've got them on this one actually.
So again, this week we've had all of these issues. You know, we've had another guy call me and Lawrence and Darren Nesbitt out as controlled COINTEL, I don't know, controlled opposition agents, because they just can't manage to wrap their mind around this diamond map and this diamond model.
Okay.
Because for whatever reason, they just, you know, that makes us agents because we are willing to investigate it. Go figure.
Let me just save that then. I'm going to save open. I'm going to open with, bring it on Paint. And you can see, we can look at the route on that now. Okay, so let's make that a bit bigger. Bring it down. So they came from the States. Let's just draw it with lines. And it was Denver, which is somewhere around about there. Went to LA and San Francisco, and then would have come down here somewhere, and then come out here to Sydney. You can barely see New Zealand on this shrink map. From Sydney to New Zealand, and then from there it went to McMurdo. So that was a commercial flight down to McMurdo, and then from McMurdo to Edmonton, Scott.
Okay. So, so nobody had to fly back and forth across the.
Sorry, I'm looking at. I've got the wrong islands on there. Let me just go back and change that. I've got the wrong bloody islands. That's Australia. New Zealand's down there. It didn't look right. Okay, so across here. Let's get it right, because otherwise they'll jump on us. Every time we make a mistake, they will jump on us. So it would go across there, you know, across the fucking Pac-Man wall. And come out this side, down to Sydney, which is about there.
It's not Pac-Man.
Down to about Sydney, which is about there, and then from Sydney down to New Zealand,
Christchurch.
down there
Okay.
somewhere. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those were the commercial flights, and then it would have gone from there to Casey. Sorry,
And
to
from
McMurdo,
Casey
and then
to
from McMurdo to Amundsen. So that would have been
okay.
the route.
So the idea is that the McMurdo to Amundsen flight is military for New Zealand, right? Isn't that no? Those are both American bases. I'm sorry, those are both American Antarctica bases. Okay.
They have flights every day from McMurdo to Amundsen. Every day, daily flights.
In the summer months, they're summer months. Yeah.
But if you look at where they are between each other on the AE map, they're on the opposite side of the AE map, so they're nearly 25,000 miles apart. So how can they have daily flights of 25,000 miles in a plane that's not got a range of 25,000 miles and would take flying non-stop would take about 3 days to get there? The entire fleet would, and 3 days to get back. It's totally ludicrous. Why would you fly across the entire world in a propeller-driven military plane when obviously you could do most of the journey in commercial jets that go much faster? So yeah, I marked on this one here, Laurie. These are some of the research stations, so you can see where they are in relation to each other. So they're not that far apart. Some of them are only a few hundred miles apart, some are a few thousand miles apart. But when you plot them out on the Gleason map, these distances get stretched from this little tiny bit to the entire big circle, which is ridiculous.
Okay, so I agree. And just so people can find it, this is the time lapse. It's a petapixel.com, and a time lapse of 24 hours of sunlight in Antarctica. And it says in the summertime at Scott Base in Antarctica, there are 4 months in which the sun never sets. From the latter part of October through the latter part of February, the sun stays above the horizon line, giving each day 24 hours of sunlight. Now, that's a bold statement, okay? I mean, if you're going to say that, you have to be able to show that. So that's what this time-lapse video is supposed to be about, and you can watch it yourself. We've gotten a couple copyright strikes, which means they can do whatever they want with our videos and lately, so I don't want to play this. But also, it says New Zealand filmmaker Anthony Powell, the man behind the award-winning film Antarctica, A Year on the Ice, created this 2-minute time-lapse video by pointing a camera at the sun and tracking it over a full day of daylight. I used a modified heavy-duty telescope tracking head to avoid any camera wobbles due to the incessant wind, then put my watch in the foreground via a mini magic arm. Powell tells Petapixel, I could just manage enough depth of field at f/22 to get both the watch and background in focus. He shot one photo every 1 minute and 1 second in order to have the second hand tick a second every frame when actually about a minute has passed. Thinking back, I probably should have made it 1 minute and 2 seconds so that the second hand would be moving faster than the minute hand, Powell says. The camera rig was powered by a solar panel plus 2 small lead acid batteries. Powell's Antarctica, A Year on Ice has been featured on Discovery, National Geographic, and BBC's Frozen Planet. It has also won numerous awards at film festivals around the world. I'm starting to release some free online clips aimed at being both entertaining and suitable for educational outreach for use in schools, etc., Powell says. You can find out more about the full film here. So I encourage anyone to watch that, and if anybody can debunk it insofar as being able to show or prove anything other than the 1 minute clip edits where he put the individual photos together to create the time lapse, then please share that with us, share it with the world, because if this guy has any reason to fake it, just so that he can get on these shows like, what was that, National Geographic Discovery and BBC's Frozen Planet. What's interesting also is that, I mean, you see tundra here in this video as it goes around, and it's obvious that it's taken a 360. So that's that.
Yeah. So this is what I've got here, Laurie. I'm still screen sharing, aren't I?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So there's McMurdo. There's Amundsen Scott. Now on the Gleason map, that's the entire distance across the entire Earth. That's nearly 25,000 miles. So I'm going to just put something on here. People might screen share this actually. Let's make the writing a bit better. Okay. Hey, Bob, Xanadu. This requires more than a few tweaks. You want to make memes out of this, folks? Please do it. Please post them on Geronism's email. This requires more than tweaks. Yeah, McMurdo, Amundsen, right? You're happy to go along with that is nearly 25,000 miles. How far is it across the Ross Ice Shelf? That's from there to there. Ross Ice Shelf is only a few hundred miles. It's about 400 miles. So half the distance is 400 miles, and the other half is the other 400 miles. Because in reality, it's not 25,000 miles across. It's what's happened to this now? It's about 800 miles. Hang on, let me just get that back on there. The computer's jammed up a bit. So you've got some explaining to do. 24,901 miles from Amundsen to McMurdo in an LC-30 Hercules plane that's got a range of just a few thousand miles and only does 400 miles an hour. How long is that going to take? It's going to take about 3 days non-stop flights to get there, and they have daily flights. So can you please explain that, Bob Xanadu? Because you keep pushing that map. You have it behind you. And Antonio Subarats, if you're watching, I noticed that when you pulled me up on the Times New Roman, yes, I was wrong about that. But you didn't answer my other questions, did you? About all these anomalies in Antarctica, which make it impossible when you start looking at the Gleason map. This just doesn't tie in. That is not 25,000 fucking miles. It's 800 miles.
Okay, so Lawrence,
So if you're watching at home, folks, go and have a look at the Ross Ice Shelf, yeah, and see how far it is from, say, Scott Base to where that inlet goes in, yeah, and you'll see it's about 400 miles. And the distance from McMurdo to Amundsen is just over 800 miles.
So, Lawrence, how do we think about, we need to tell everybody at this point, yes, we're flat earthers. We're still flat earthers. Once you're a flat earther, you don't not be a flat earther anymore. So how do we know that Antarctica is not an island at the bottom of the globe? So we know it isn't laid out exactly like that, because even on the diamond map, it's not laid out that way. So how do we think it is laid out?
Yeah, as the bottom of the diamond map. Let's bring that one back up. Where was it gone? Calignan. Was that it? There we go. This is how it's laid out. This is where they all are, because these distances also fit. If you look on here, McMurdo to Amundsen, it's not very far at all. Yeah. So our reality on our map fits reality. The reality on the Gleason map is just a work of fiction. Okay,
so Amundsen Scott being considered the center of the pie that they have cut up.
Well, yeah, because they're doing it on the basis that it's a globe. So on the globe, the center of the pie is going to be the apex of this. That is 90 degrees south, zero longitude, because all the lines of longitude, if you look on the map, they all converge. So you have to draw a straight line from wherever that longitude is, right to the the 90-degree point.
Okay, so when having a conversation with someone who is a Gleason mapper or an AE mapper, funny how we've gotten to the point where we really do have a lot of factions. So let's say you're having a conversation with this person who says, well, Rob Skiba said that the equidistant map is mathematically fixable if you just simply equate the equidistant part to the outer rings to equal the inner rings. And my eyes are rolling back in my head, and I'm thinking, why do we have to do all that? Because all you have to do is convert them back to the actual fact that all latitude lines in the north and the south are fairly close to each other, meaning 40 north and 40 south. The length of the latitude line is about the same, correct? So all you have to do is put it back on the diamond map. I mean, it is the closest thing to the globe. And funny how it just works again without a whole bunch of mathematical stuff happening and tweaking. So I actually got somebody to think about that today and kind of get it that, yeah, wait a minute, why are we using this map? And then knowing that we have to tweak the math to get it to the equidistant part to work, to compare the southern hemiplane with the northern hemiplane.
Well, if they changed all those shapes to the correct dimensions, you'd end up with this map.
Yeah, exactly. So what's the fuss? That's my question. Why are we going through this reverse engineered exercise only to come back to when you do it, then this is what you get. You get this diamond map. It's not that hard. It's not a stretch. And here's what's so interesting about this is back to my dialogue I was in a minute ago about, when we first came into Flat Earth, the AE map and model was what we were handed. It was it was like you walked into a dinner party and everybody gave you this, or, you walked in and you got the same plate of food. Okay. You all got a salad on your plate. You all got peas. You all got a piece of, bread and a lump of chicken. And that's the flat earth theory. And then if you start to question any of those elements, well, I don't really like the way this chicken looks. So I'm going to look into something other than this lump of chicken. And then immediately everybody goes, no, you're making waves. You're causing problems here because we need to be together on this. We need cohesion and unity. And then you're like, but wait, it's got problems. It's not truth. And then we'll work on that later. We need to just stick together right now. So what exactly is the point of being a flat earther and seeking the truth if you're disallowed from questioning any of the dogma that you're handed on this plate when you walk into the room? And that's what Lawrence and I began to do, only because we're both critical thinkers. We don't just question everything, we question everything. And so as time's gone by, we've systematically questioned everything. And that's why we're the outsiders. How does that work? What do you got now, Lawrence?
I just wanted to show you the picture of this LC-30, which is the plane that would have had to fly 25,000 miles for that nonsense journey. But look, it's on skis. You can see the things on skis. So if it was embarking over 25,000 miles and needed to land in the meantime, where the fucking hell is it going to land? It's got no bloody wheels. You know, it's only
I don't know. Maybe that thing can land on water.
Ooh, I don't know, but that's just another.
We need to find that out if it's a possibility that it can land on water. But
check up the LC-30. You know, the range of it's just a few thousand miles.
It definitely looks like an adapted ice plane. It doesn't really have any pontoons on it, so I would say it probably can't land on water.
Yeah, why would you fly to one side of Antarctica, spending about 20,000 miles to get there, to then immediately fly 25,000 miles to the other side of Antarctica? It's just a complete nonsense.
So, Jen, this Donenfield guy is quite a rock star for putting together this nice blog for his adventures as the breakfast cook.
There's quite a lot of blogs on there, Laurie. I had a look at quite a few.
I know.
The people are allowed to say what they do. They're not, you know, there's no official secrets. And, you know, I watched that Robert Shortman show again with Subirats and Nathan Oakley. And when they first asked him about, you know, was there 24 hours daylight in Antarctica, he said, no, not all the time. Well, what does not all the time mean? It means if it's not all the time, it's some of the time. Yeah. And then he's got another show. Yeah,
why would you add not all of the time? You would just say, no, it never happened.
Exactly. But now he's got another show since, and he's changed his tune. So I don't know why he's done that. But, you know.
So what's the new tune?
It's just a no now.
Oh, now he says just no?
He went from no, not all the time, to no. I haven't got the clips to show that to you, but you can go and check it out for yourself. Go and find out what shows he's been on. I think the guy's genuine, but, you know, he's sold on this ice wall. And, Robert, if you're watching this show tonight and you cannot put your hand on your heart and say the ice wall makes any form of sense when a plane is flying, you know, 40,000 miles or more to get there when, you know, the true distance is probably, you know, 12,000 miles or less.
Well, and why would they even, I mean, if the guy was going to that station, I mean, he wouldn't have just been on that same plane with everybody going to all these different places and he's the last one to get dropped off. I mean, why would he fly from Denver to LA to Sydney to Christchurch to McMurdo to Munson Scott when he really just, I mean, would have flown probably 2 or 3 stops in the other direction. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that we have to stop avoiding talking about. And the only reason why, and I remember feeling this sort of freaked out feeling myself when I first got into flat earth, when someone would ask me, you know, some troll, some glober who was really intense, who would get into some kind of a conversation with me, you know, maybe we'd be on some NASA channel or something, and I would be making flat earth remarks like I did back then a lot. And someone would challenge me to, any number of things like, what about the Coriolis effect? And what about the 24-hour sunlight in Antarctica? And what about, and I would like, that's false. That's bunk.
There's the link again, Laurie. Look, that, you know, United States, Sydney, Christchurch, McMurdo, and over to Munson Scott. It's just a complete and utter, this one thing blows it out of the water. If anybody continues to use it, now we've put this out, then they're agents. They're agents. They can't, you know, nobody, that's stupid.
All that's off some guy's blog. That's not official.
No, but those places, that's where those places are on here.
I get that. I totally get that. I mean, it's the map.
Laurie, but you look on this map. McMurdo's here, yeah, and Amundsen Scott's there. That's nearly 25,000 miles apart. But when you look on this one, let's have a look. Where's it gone? Antarctica. I just had it on anyway, didn't it? Here we go.
So, yeah, I mean,
so there,
it looks pretty real then, right?
Come on, if you have to argue Gleason to be correct, you have to say that short distance there is 25,000 miles. Well, any film can tell you that it's not. You know, the Ross Ice Shelf from there to there is about 400 miles. And you can go and check that out yourself on Google Earth. Go and measure the Ross Ice Shelf from that edge up until where this inlet goes in, yeah? And if that's 400 miles or even 500 miles, then how can you say it's another 24,500 miles to there to go the same distance? You can't.
No.
So anybody who's using that Gleason map after this show and still using it, you know, and saying it's not too bad, you know, if we tweak this, if we tweak that, because they're still saying it every week.
Hold on. What does tweak mean? Okay, I got a little one for you here, because this is what actually totally truly happened to me the other day, and that is when I was talking about this being here and that being there, and someone actually said to me, and I wrote it down exactly how they said it. You don't trust Google, do you? Okay. Google is not who we trust or don't trust. It's the information on Google. Okay. So
Laurie,
no,
seriously,
I don't trust Google, but what, Lawrence?
Let me ask you this.
Okay, hold your horses. I'm talking for a second. Okay. So I said this was the response to my showing someone the distance between Amundsen Scott and McMurdo Station in Antarctica. You don't trust Google, do you? So in other words, that map right there, people say you don't trust Google. Well, I don't trust the way the layout is, but I do trust all the other evidence that adds up to it can't be that far, because the plane that flies it can't go 25,000 miles in one stop in the amount of 58 hours or whatever it would take to fly from one to the other. And so that led me to, how would anyone find their way around without latitude and longitude locations? How could they fake that? All right. Now, I challenge anyone to learn about latitudes and longitudes. I don't care if they are imaginary places. They are what we use to navigate with, okay? I'm not talking about satellites and GPSs and all that. I'm talking about the physical location on the map. Humans have maps. These maps are pretty darn accurate. They are not maps like this. Let's see if you can even see that. Okay, sorry, this is in reverse. Here's the McMurdo, okay? And if I'm going to give somebody a map to get to Amundsen Scott, okay, I'm going to, without latitudes and longitudes, I'm going to say, okay, here's McMurdo. You go this way until you see these mountains. When you see these mountains, then you go this way until you see this tree and this stream or whatever it is, right? And then when you get there, you go that way. That's not how we map anymore, okay? The Lord of the Rings maps are off the table now, okay? We use latitudes and longitudes, and we get there within feet, okay? So you mean you trust Google? End of story. It's not Google. It's the latitude and longitude that I'm looking for, and those are specific. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Well, now we've put this out this week. I think I touched on it last week, but I actually found an actual example of where the routes actually go. if the likes of Geronism and Bob Xanadu, whatever his number is after that, and Antonio Subirats and all the other people, which is virtually all of the headline flat earthers, including DeBay and Sargent, who talk about the ice wall, if they continue, we know they watch us. That they say they don't, but we know they're all watching us. If they continue to use that Gleason map as representative of where we live, you know, and even have pictures of it behind where they sit, like Antonio Subirats does, and Bob Xanadu, he does the same, and the other people have all got, you know, you've got David Weiss, he's got his flat Earth clock behind him, and a lot of the others have got the other AE map without the towns and cities on it and stuff like that. If they continue to do that, are they agents? That is the question. Do you think they are agents?
Well, I don't automatically anymore think. Okay, hold on. I'm looking up something. I don't automatically think they're agents. I have no idea why they would be so adamant to stick to something that, you know, they haven't fully researched, and then once someone else starts researching it and starts calling them out, how do they ignore that and or try to rebut it, but yet no actual rebuttal ever happens? We've had these maps and these ideas out on the table for months and months, and these guys are still saying, you know, those guys are causing problems in the flat earth movement. They're causing division. They're creating havoc. They need to be stopped. They're boring. That was one of my favorite ones I heard this week. They're boring. Oh, I'm so sorry that boring is trying to actually learn something. I'm sorry that we don't have little clown suits on and that we wear with balloons and streamers and all that stuff and try to make a fabulous fancy show for you. We're just here putting out information. If you find that boring, then change the channel. All right, here's the screen share for you. Okay.
Yeah, all and right. If you've got time at home, go and get your Gleason map, which you can download, a JPEG picture of it, and then look up the latitude and longitude of all the research stations and plot them all out.
Okay, yeah. Here's one right here for you. Hold on a second, Lawrence. Here's one right here for you. This is McMurdo Station. I just Googled latitude and longitude of McMurdo Station, Antarctica. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if Google's lying, then this isn't where they say it is. Okay? They say these are the coordinates right here, right?
Yeah.
If it's not there, I think if someone tried to fly there or take a boat there, they would discover that this information is incorrect. Would you agree?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, so how about this one? Make sure I'm still, yeah. Okay, how about this one? Here I typed in time and date .info and asked for because I had a hard time finding it, for the coordinates of Amundsen Scott South Pole Station. And here's the latitude and longitude, okay? So it's not exactly 90 degrees south, but it's pretty darn close at 89, 59, 51. So this is how you make a map today, okay? Or this is how you verify a map today, is you actually find the coordinates of some place and you plot it on the map and on the continent where it belongs, and so on and so on. So if let me stop sharing. So Lawrence did that for how many cities, roughly, Lawrence, to come up with the diamond map?
For flights, are we talking about now?
No, I'm talking about your diamond-shaped map for flights. How many flights between cities?
I did 51 flights.
Okay. And how did you create the map to begin with? And I have to interject here. Anyone can go on the channel and look up the video that we call the map workshop, and you will see how we arrived at this, or how Lawrence did. And there are actual Google coordinates and latitude and longitude measurements for a globe 25,000 miles in circumference, what the latitude at any one of those degrees would be, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All available information. And once you plot those all out mathematically, you come up with, we didn't start out with a shape. The shape created itself based on the data. Am I correct, Lawrence?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So if you take a piece of paper and you create 25,000 miles using, what was it, 1 centimeter to 100 miles? Is that what it was, roughly?
The map, I've got the map here. I did 1 centimeter to 200 miles.
Okay, 1 centimeter to 200 miles. And plotted out the major latitudes that we know of, and the distances from north to south and from east to west on this piece of paper. And that's what appeared by connecting the dots, was the diamond. So when people see that, it's like, okay, well, that's fine, except hello, how do you get from east to west? And that's where their mind shuts down, and they don't want to hear any more about it, because they believe that once you try to explain that you just keep going and you come back over here. Okay, same way the sun does, same way the moon does, same way the stars do as they travel across. We're fixed. We're right here. We're stationary. So you have to open your mind to what other method could there, should there, would there be to get this whole thing to work. And when you use the word portal, they flip out, because they think of some like Stargate, because they have a thought bubble that comes in their head when you say the word portal, and they have an image that they've sort of been pre-programmed with over time to think of what a portal means. What are you doing now, Lawrence?
I was just getting some material ready for my next little presentation.
Oh, good. Okay. So what's the next presentation? Anyway, portal is a word that I'm trying to use less and less, because, like I said, the thought bubble that comes in people's mind, the mental picture, gets them all discombobulated, and they just can't imagine a plane or a ship or the sun going through some little portal window. And that's not at all what we're even talking about. The portal, interject the word fourth dimension time, or any other way to describe how, if you keep going, if you head east and you keep going west, you actually end up back in the east. And many TV shows, movies, and what I would call predictive programming has shown this effect with time travel. And yet that's fine if it's couched as entertainment or as fantasy. But if you try to make that into any kind of reality, no. That's off the table. So, all right, what kind of presentation do you have next, Lawrence?
Well, I scan YouTube every day for new stuff out there, and I got off the title more than anything. There's a lot of what I'd call junk videos out there now, and I found one today from a guy who put something up before and I'd commented on it, and he actually put a video back commenting on us. It's only a short one, so I'd like to play it. There's no music or copyright on this, And then we look at the information he presents, and I've told this guy I'm going to debunk him tonight. And I posted those comments on his video, so we can actually take a look at that, if you bear with me. Some of what his video doesn't make any sense to me, so but let's get it going. Let's go back to the screen share. And then once we've done the video, I'll present my evidence to say that he's incorrect. All right, so this was it. It's called Flat Earth Nonsense. So let's play this. Too loud. Just a minute. Let's turn my volume down a bit. Hang on, let's wind it back again. Is that volume okay? Is that all right?
I can't hear anything yet. It's not. No. You got it a little too low now, Lawrence, I think.
Hang on.
I was planning to do a video about the ridiculous flat Earth mathematics.
That's okay now.
I prefer to do another video about the ultimate flat Earth map first. In my last video on this topic, I stated that no one has ever tried to construct a flat Earth map that gives correct distances, and the only one that has tried failed. Some YouTubers reacted to this statement, and it became clear to me that there is a growing disagreement among flat earthers about the usual flat Earth map, and that some people are trying to make it more consistent with the known distances. This led to 3 other flat Earth maps. Circle. Close.
Tell me what you think. Is it a star? It is a star.
The first I will refer to as the more correct flat Earth map, so named by its maker, Truth Not Trolls Sturrock. The other one by the name of Collignon projection, and the third one derived from the Collignon projection that I shall refer to as the Lorentz map, because it's constructed by Lawrence Wright. The first one is more or less a variant to the Gleason's map. The other two are fundamentally different because they propagate a diamond-shaped world. I'll start first with some basic triangulations. Surveyors started using triangulation in the 1615s in Holland as a way of measuring distances and fixating points in space and at a specific place on a map. Since then, about the whole world has been triangulated, as can be seen on this map of India. Back then, surveyors had to conclude that the Earth is a sphere, because that was the only way they could make their measurements fit. When you have a city, say Amsterdam, then you can draw a circle with a radius of 5,862 kilometers, the distance between Amsterdam and New York. New York can lie anywhere on that circle, so we choose a point at random. Connecting both points gives us a baseline. Now we can draw a circle with a radius of 15,524 kilometers, the distance between New York and Brisbane. And a circle with a radius of 16,213 kilometers, the distance between Amsterdam and Brisbane. Now we have 2 possible locations for Brisbane. Connecting the dots gives us 2 triangles mirrored around the axis Amsterdam-New York, with the 2 possible locations for Brisbane at their top. Then we can draw another triangle, with Amsterdam-New York as a base and the 2 possible locations of Tokyo. And for Kuala Lumpur, the same thing. Some locations are clearly impossible, so they are eliminated here. In this way, we can locate different cities on a flat map. We can position the first triangle in such a way that they match the positions of Amsterdam and New York on one of the alternative flat Earth maps. And then we can see whether or not the other cities lie in the right place. On the more correct flat Earth map, Brisbane lies in the middle of the ocean, somewhere near the Philippines, or in another configuration off the coast of Sri Lanka. According to that configuration, Kuala Lumpur lies in the province of Gujarat in India. In the other configuration, Tokyo lies in the province of Chukotka in Russia. It could also lie somewhere in Uzbekistan. Now let's see how the colonial map does. Brisbane lies either somewhere in the Antarctic or not at the map at all. Via another configuration, it lies pretty much at the right place. At least it lies in Australia.
There we go. We've got Australia in the right place. Kind of let's continue.
But then Kuala Lumpur lies in the province of Andhra Pradesh in India. Tokyo lies somewhere in Namibia. It's just a mess. Not surprisingly, the results for the Lawrence map are evenly disastrous. It turns out to be a scheme to control the distances on the colonial map. Still, Lawrence Wright claims that all the distances are correct within a 5% margin. But I measure on this chart a distance between Quito, Ecuador, and Cape Town, South Africa, of about 13,000 kilometers. The real distance is 10,000 kilometers.
Okay, so he said I've got on there it's 13,000 kilometers. Well, I'm going to prove to you shortly that it isn't. This guy's backtracking now. Let's let him finish off the other accusations on distances.
The distance between Quito and London is about 12,000 kilometers on this map.
No, it isn't.
The real distance is 9,000 kilometers. The distance between London and Cape Town is about 11,000 kilometers on this map. The real distance is 9,600 kilometers.
Yes, it is on my map.
Differences result in huge differences.
I'm sorry, you're wrong.
Okay, so
in order to have it comply,
I can't hear him if you talk.
I may have distorted some distances in the process, but not.
Yes, you have. You've cocked it up, man.
Mistake. Did he mean to say my distances are correct within a 30% margin?
Okay, so let's just come out of that. So the guy saying what the distance is.
I don't even understand his method. First thing, Lawrence, do you understand his method for arriving at the figure?
Triangulation, but he's totally misread the distances on the map. So, for example, he said my Quito to Cape Town was way out, London to Cape Town was way out, and Quito to London was way out. So that's actually a triangulation, which you can triangulate on the map. So I'm just going to show you on the map how it actually looks. If you bear with me a second. Not that one.
And this is the only guy that has come forward to try to debunk this map, Lawrence. This is the only guy who's attempted to debunk this map?
Yeah. So
okay.
I've actually plotted these places out roughly, on the Calignan map. So there's London, there's Cape Town, there's Quito. And the distances on this map are 6,6, Quito to Cape Town. In reality, 6,611, so, less than the width of the pencil. London to Cape Town, 6,000 on this Calignan map, 5,987, 13 miles out. The only one that's out, and it's out by about 10%, is the Quito to London. On my map, that I did, is 5,7, and on the map it's 6,3, but that's under 10% difference, and that's one of the few that are out by more than 10%, and that tends to happen when you get these journeys that go across a lot of longitudes. They tend to be more Great Circle routes that when it goes on in a sort of diagonal pattern.
Right.
So.
No, I can testify.
I'm actually
to that.
prove it as well on the map because.
Hold on a second, because you need to explain for those who are not used to hearing terms like Great Circle route. The Great Circle route is based on a globe, and if you look at the actual route that they post on their websites of the flights, they actually show them curved, which is one of those things that a lot of flat earthers who believe in the circle AE map jump on, because they say, see, it's actually curved, just like the map. So go ahead.
Right.
The reason why they use them it is really not explained very
All
well
right, I need to
anywhere.
stop presenting this now because I need to. I've got my map out. I don't know whether we can actually see it. Have I stopped sharing now?
No,
Oh bugger!
no, you're still sharing.
I'm trying to unshare.
Okay, you're still sharing.
Can you
So-
override? We always have this bloody problem with screen sharing.
No.
Can you?
No, you have this bloody problem.
All right. I'll try screen
Okay,
sharing.
at the bottom, it'll say, now you've finished. You've gotten
Right.
out of
Okay. Right. So obviously they were coming up with that guy was coming up greatly exaggerating the error rate on the map, and on this map I've got here in a minute, which I'll show you.
Oh boy.
There's the map, and I've got my ruler to prove to you that it works to scale as well.
Oh my Lord in heaven,
So,
making me.
yeah, all right. So on my map, Quito to Cape Town is 33 centimeters. 33 centimeters at a scale of 1 centimeter to 200 miles is 6,600 miles, as opposed to the 6,611. London to Cape Town is 30 centimeters on my map. 30 centimeters at 200 miles per centimeter, 6,000 miles. And the Quito to London is 31.5 centimeters on my map, which gives us to within 10% of the official 5731. So I've got my ruler here. Yeah, you can see that on there. And I've marked on 31.5 centimeters, 33 centimeters, and 32 centimeters. I've got them marked on my ruler. You got the first one there, 31, and we can actually check on the map that those distances are correct. So if we start off with Quito to Cape Town on the map, so I'm going to put my ruler on the map.
Lawrence, just so you know, your voice is lagging to the video. In other words,
okay, so this is the map.
In other words, we see you look like it's one of those old Japanese movies. Your lips are moving, but the words are not synced.
All right, well, here's my ruler, right, with the marks on for the 3 different distances. So you can actually, because you won't be able to see the ruler, the actual markings, but I've marked those on. So if we start off with London to Cape Town, so the stars. Oh, this bloody map. The stars. Yeah, I put star where Cape Town is, star where London is, and now we're going to measure it. So just bear with me while I put my ruler on.
Sorry, folks at home watching this. Lawrence loves spinning his camera all around everywhere when he's doing these.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if you can see the Cape Town to London, okay.
No, we can't because your camera is aimed at the sky.
Okay, well, Cape Town to London, that first marker, which is on the star, well, you can see it now, that is 30 centimetres. I don't know whether you can read the ruler, 30 centimetres. Cape Town there, London there, it's 30 centimetres, yeah, which equates to the 30 centimetres at, 1 centimetre to 200 miles is going to give us the 6,000 miles, which is what it is in real life. And then if we look at Quito to Cape Town on my map.
Yeah. I know you wanted to pump the crap out of the sky.
33 centimetres on the map. Yeah, but the way you can read my map, that's on 33 centimetres. Quito to Cape Town, 33 centimetres. Okay. So that's an exact match. Okay, the only one that's slightly out, when it's less than 10%, is the London to Quito.
Oh, Lawrence, before the viewership starts dropping like flies here.
Yeah. Which you can see.
You have
the second reading on there.
You have taken.
The second reading on there.
Oh my God in heaven.
Which is 31.5 centimetres. So this is a scale map. It's all measured out.
Okay, Lawrence.
Graph paper.
I'm Lawrence.
Right, all right. Well, that's enough of that.
You're done. Okay. This man had man had 38 views on his video.
You might get a few more
You
now.
have shown, yeah, he's going to get a lot more, but that's okay. You have shown that the map that he's trying to debunk. Now we got an echo. Okay, so
Well, do you want me to show you his
would
comments
you
where
please
he's
do me a big favor and drop out and come back in because your sound's all mucked up.
All right.
And for those who are watching, when you ask somebody to debunk somebody and you get two eggheads, I guess you would call it, fighting against each other for who's got the math and the numbers right. The idea is that, you know, Lawrence has had a challenge out for months and months for somebody to debunk his map, and this gentleman calls that what he did a debunk. I think the fight will continue with these guys, and now Lawrence is getting coffee and making a bunch of racket. Okay, so I'm going to talk about something I want to talk about for a second, and that is the likes of Samuel Rowbotham. And the reason why I want to talk about this guy is because we're all following a map and a model. And, you know, I say we all. The Flat Earth community considers this map. Mute Lawrence because he's rummaging around in something. This map and model, you know, is the basis of most people's belief system in the Flat Earth community. And most people either A, don't have time or don't care enough to investigate not only the map and model for themselves, to go outside and do some of their own experiments, or to, you know, verify even the person who created the whole shebang in the first place. So if you stop making racket, Lawrence, I'll unmute you. So the idea is that you've got another experiment, I see. Okay, hold on for just a second, though. So I would like for you to, Lawrence, what was the name of that blog did you send me that in a message? The blog that the guy wrote extensively about Samuel Rowbotham?
Oh, I know which one you meant. Yeah. It was on, let me find it for you. Just give me a second.
Yeah. It was just the other day, so it can't be that far away. It's not, okay, yeah. I'm looking here at fonts. That's not the one. That's not the one. I guess you posted it in Facebook. Anyway, I want you to pull that up and so that we can show people that blog that guy did an extensive amount of research into who he calls a complete fraud, Samuel Rowbotham, and that he would call him a snake oil salesman and every other kind of thing. So just for the sake of good research, you should never avoid looking into things that are, you know, anti what your belief system is. The best thing to do to check your belief system is to actually read these anti your belief system kinds of things.
I've got it now, Laurie.
Just to verify that what you think you know is correct or not. And if you add some more information in there, might it alter your belief? Go ahead. What's the name of it?
I'll bring it up and then you can carry on talking about it. Hang on. Where did that go? Just bear me.
You always share the screen, Lawrence, before you actually have the thing brought up. So in the future, I'd love for you to work on that so I don't have to look at myself doing weird, licking my lips or fixing my hair or whatever else I'm doing while I think you've got the camera. So click
There we go. We got it. Yeah. This is the one.
Controlled opposition. Yeah, open the article. You just have the Google page.
Oh, sorry.
So
actually,
open the article.
Yeah. Visit page. And it makes very interesting reading. You can talk about it if you want.
It's a long article.
I know, but the closing, well, you can read the opening paragraphs and the closing ones.
Yeah. Flat Earth, let me share that. Flat Earth to controlled opposition. We need to go over a variety of issues that allow to paint a larger context that will make it clearer how and why a flat Earth scenario could actually be fact, against the truly overwhelming programming and apparent evidence that to most people makes the idea so ludicrous that even contemplating it seems sheer insanity. In this subsection, it will be shown how the most popular flat Earth model, as well as the historical figures who promoted flat Earth, are corrupt. Please bear with me, it is rather relevant. After this, we'll start moving on to more technical issues. And then scroll down a little bit, Lawrence, just for, and it's actually, I don't know why the name of this is, the website is called gayfundamentals.wordpress.com. Up at the top, you can take a screen capture and find this, but scroll down a little bit more on it, if you would please, Lawrence. It talks about this model, and it basically goes on to explain not only the model, but what doesn't work about this model. And then from there, it goes in, scroll quite a bit down into the Robotham part. It goes into Robotham, and he went further than just Wikipedia. So you can see by the size of the little gray box on the right side of the screen that it's an extensive article, because it scrolls on and on and on forever. But he calls Robotham right here a complete fraud. Okay, so it's worth reading. And if it doesn't sway your opinion as to the guy that is the basis for not only the map and the model, but he's the guy that all of the flat Earth, big dogs talk about all the time, like Dubé. And Dubé obviously plagiarized almost his entire book, but it's important, if you're going to believe in something, that you check out where it came from. And almost all of this modern day cult dogma of flat Earth comes from Robotham. He's the ice wall guy. He's the guy who, sort of placed the continents where they go on his azimuthal map and endorsed this map. I don't mean to say he put the continents where they are, but he's the one that made the comparison to the azimuthal map. And then when people say, oh, but then later in 1943 or 5 or something, the UN came along and they used the flat Earth map. No, they don't. They used the azimuthal map that's twisted a little bit differently and configured a little bit differently, but it is not the flat Earth map. And so when people keep using that term, the flat Earth map, and endorsing it for months and months and months and year and a half and years, then it's pretty hard to undo that in and of itself.
Yeah, and so, we don't even know who this guy is, but it's, for the podcast,
we're following information that he put out 175 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the guy says,
and we have technology today to verify every single thing that he said that he didn't even have the technology for. As a matter of fact, the original Bedford Level experiment was what most people who saw it in its day called a media event, much like the kinds of media events we have today. And that whole intention was to get all of this attention onto this crazy guy named Parallax and make him look a little more crazy. And as each person who took over the Flat Earth Society came along over the years, they also did kind of said some kind of crazy stuff, and it's just perpetuated itself. So, okay, Lawrence, I see you have a ball there in
Oh,
your.
yeah, I just wanted to conclude on this
table.
one. Can I just conclude on this one? Because for the podcast viewers, it says, before showing the problem with Roboth and the man, allow me to point out what the problem of this model is. That practically all flat earthers are using as a basis. It's a completely useless model, which is conclusively shown by 2 points. I'll just cover the first one, which says it cannot account for long daylight in the south. And the closing comments are really good. So let's just go down to the bottom and see how he concludes the whole subject. Let's see. Okay, he said, I won't analyse the current shills because there's too much internet noise on these guys already. Every shill attacking every other shill and generating an amazing cacophony and Babylonian confusion that has at this point successfully killed a constructive flat earth research culture. So yeah, which is what we're trying to do. And these people are trying to kill it off. So this is an important point to take cognizance of. The topic is controlled, very controlled, and most researchers get taken in by the wrong model, taken in by the screaming invective and confusion, taken in by the agents. If you understand the topic is indeed controlled, you are one step ahead of the rest, and I can ask yourself this crucial question. Why on earth would the system put so much energy into controlling this issue? That's a good question. That should provide you with a major incentive to take flat earth a bit more seriously. Let's now drive the discussion to more theoretical and technical grounds. So that's the gayfundamentals.wordpress.com. So, go and take a look at that, because the guy's obviously done some research into it.
Yeah, he's done a lot of research into Robotham and Shenton and who else? Johnson, all of the head lead guys that were the presidents of the Flat Earth Society once it got going. And if you ask any flat earther today about the Flat Earth Society, their first thing out of their mouth is, oh, that's a controlled opposition site, and all of their information is disinfo, and so on. So they don't support Flat Earth Society as being correct and official data, but yet that's their map. That's their model that everybody is supporting. The only difference is a few added weird things, like the gravity is represented by the Earth moving up so many feet a second to, create this effective gravity, which we all know is bogus because the Earth isn't moving. It's not moving anywhere. It's completely stationary. So, Lawrence, it looks like you have a blow-up globe in a bucket of water. Can't wait.
I had a little
this
experiment, but this one, you can talk about Bedford level after this, but, for me, all these experiments that go out of their way to show curvature or the lack of it are a complete waste of time, because if we did live on this ball, aside from the very top, it's so patently obvious that we do live on the ball, because there's these huge slopes, some of which are vertical, and most of the ones that are where people live, you couldn't live on them without some severe terracing, but you would still be aware of the huge fall off in elevation wherever you are, and it'd be a daily factor of life that you'd be going either uphill or downhill, and there's very little flatland about. So if we had canals on here,
you're saying all this regardless of gravity, because they have gravity on their globe and spinning and whatever else. So you're saying with or without spin, you would see this curve, this elevation.
But in flat Earth, gravity doesn't exist, and I agree with that. So if you forget about gravity, so if you look at the Bedford level experiment, the UK is, London, Bedford level's not far from London on the map, and the latitude there is about 50 degrees. And at 50 degrees, you knock the 50 off the 90 to find out the angle of elevation. So the angle of elevation at the Bedford level is 40 degrees. Now, if you had a canal that was at a 40-degree angle to the horizontal, the water is all going to run out, isn't it? And I've got a little experiment here now that proves
run off the globe.
that with a 40-degree angle, there wouldn't be no canals in England. So let this here represent a cross-section of the canal. Okay, and I've put some water in it, and I'm now going to tip this up at 40 degrees. Now, if all the water remains in, it will be possible to have canals in Britain. But if the water runs out, it means canals would not be possible in the first place. So your experiment is ridiculous because canals just wouldn't exist. And you will be looking down a slope at the canal or looking up a slope, depending on which viewpoint that you're looking at. So let's do the experiment. I'll tip this dish up to 40 degrees. Let's see if the water stays in the dish. Oh dear, the water's coming out, Laurie. The canal's drained. There'd be no boats to sail up and down on to do the experiment. So why do
it? Level experiment.
Robotham's experiment was part of the psyop to make people think that, well, there may be some curve. If there was any curvature, you wouldn't be able to see it because it's only 8 inches. Nobody's going to notice that. Well, you'd fucking notice a drop of 2/3 of a mile, wouldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Okay. So now we're echoing again. We're echoing again. Please.
I'll go in and out
and come back.
All right.
Oh, tell you what, he's a piece of work, isn't he, folks? So the Bedford level experiment was just retried by a group in the UK called the Fookers, and they went to reenact the Bedford level experiment. And apparently it was pretty much, I guess, unsuccessful in that maybe they didn't do proper reconnaissance before they tried their experiment because the canal was unkept and the weeds had all grown, the reeds or whatever had grown into the canal, and so it was hard to get a good eyesight all the way down through there. And then it appeared that maybe some of their waders weren't tall enough to keep the water from running inside, and it just had a lot of problems, according to the video that Dave Moore put up. So at the end of the day, I guess they had a laser on the back of the canoe, and so it wasn't exactly a reenactment of the original experiment, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because the original experiment was nothing more than, a media event in the day. And Lady Blount was one of the people who was there or reported on it and made a big deal about it and so on. That whole idea of trying to measure curvature over that kind of a distance is really an exercise in futility, because we all know now that we don't even see our distance vision creates a false horizon line, and anything that gets hidden behind that horizon line is not dropping over curvature. As we all know, it's just beyond the vanishing point of the horizon line. So anything beyond that line drops below the line exponentially as it gets farther away, which is why boats look like the bottom of the boat goes away faster first, which is why looking across water to a city, the city drops below the horizon line, and people automatically have been told that the reason why the bottom's gone is because it went over the curvature. So that's really just, that's like Flat Earth 101, that kind of information or those kinds of experiments. But it is one experiment that everyone should do for themselves to visually see what that phenomenon is about. So, what else you got? What else you got in your bag of tricks, Lawrence?
Well, a few things there, Laurie. So we'll just do these one at a time, shall we? On last week's show, you flagged up the fact that you think many of the headline flat earthers are buying views and likes and so on and so forth because it's very cheap to do it, and it puts their videos on the top of all search listers, so ultimately they will get more views because they come up first. And it has been picked up by some other channels. I think one of them was somebody else called Laurie, a woman called Laurie Gale, and she did a YouTube on it. I don't know whether, did you catch that one?
Actually, no. I've been working so much lately that I haven't had time to watch very many videos.
So Laurie Gale picked up on it, and he got a fair amount of comments on her channel. So you might want to go and watch that one. I don't know whether the channel's called Laurie Gale or not, but she picked up on it as well. It might be.
I haven't had much interaction at all with her. She must run in a different circle of flat Earth friends.
Yeah.
So, Ronnie has just sent me a message that he's home now, event skeptic. So I sent him a link, and hopefully he'll be able to join us here in a few minutes.
Well, and I've got a couple of other things. Might even bring that Laurie Gale one up, because it's interesting. But something that you mentioned to me was you thought that this video you showed, it looked like the sun was coming through water. It looked like it had been shining through water. And obviously, if the sun is above water and shining through it, then obviously that affects the upper parts of the model that we're in. And I have made a start in trying to compute how high the sun is. I haven't put all the science together yet, and and I might not be able to, but it's something I'm having a look at because we're getting all sorts of different ideas of A, how big the sun is, and B, how high up it is. And I haven't seen any conclusive proof for any of these things, because nobody's put it out there. So that's something that's worth looking at, because if the sun is outside the firmament, then it might have a different bearing on where we are.
Well, my thoughts on that. I do believe the sun, the source for the light of the sun is outside of our realm. I don't know what the firmament is and what it's made of. So I do know that biblically speaking, there is water above the firmament. So other than that, if it is above the firmament, then its source and or its point of convergence of its own light would possibly be coming through some kind of a firmament, like a wall, water, an energy force field. I don't know, the portals. I mean, no way of describing exactly what that is. So, I do believe, though, that the source of the light of the sun is on the outside of our realm. I do believe that. Ronnie has joined us. Event Skeptic is here. So thanks for jumping in. I understand you just got home from work or wherever it was you were doing. So glad to have you join us.
Yeah, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Lawrence. Hey, Laurie. Interesting so far. Enjoying your show as usual. Yeah. Wow. I just like to say, since I was on your show, I've noticed an uptick in shill talk, and I'm an agent.
Of course, I told you that would happen. I tried to warn you. When you side with this side, the anti-AE side, you go out on the weak limbs.
Yeah.
So, have you been working on anything this week? I know you've been busy. Have you got anything, any new points of interest to share with us?
I'm going to pull up a couple things. I'm going to let you guys talk as I pull up a couple of things on ancient Chinese cosmology. And yeah, I'm just going to get that ready here while we chat.
Okay. Yeah, I like I said, I tried to warn you that there, you already knew there were a bunch of camps of flat earthers, and I mean, it's kind of funny now that you can actually kind of line them all up and name them all, like anything from the word Effie newbie to domers to Christian Effies to, I mean, you can go on and on. The AEFEs. I mean, acronyms beginning. Gleasoners. It goes on, and it's interesting because all of us are believe in one thing, or think we do, that the Earth is flat, but from that point on, the divergence goes off in every direction. I mean, it actually does kind of look like the Antarctica little map there, where flat Earth is the South Pole, and then all of those little pizza pie places are all the different factions of flat Earth. And a lot of people would say that happens when you have a religion or a cult, and I would have a hard time arguing with that at this point.
Laurie, can I just
go ahead?
play a short? Sorry, are you ready now, Ronnie?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to play this short clip by Laurie Gale because I think you'll find this interesting because it resonates with what we're saying. It's only a short one. If you want to stop it at any time, Laurie, just tell me. But
okay.
It was something that resonated with me.
Hopefully she doesn't have any copyrighted material in there.
No.
Hi there. Today I want to ask you something. I want to ask you, how is it that you came across the topic of the flat Earth? Or the case that the Earth is not a spinning ball? Or people that believe that it's concave? What and who was the way that you found it out? A lot of us that have been around for over a year, there was only a couple of places they could have seen it. In my case, it was the Flat Earth Clues by Mark Sargent. My biggest question that haunts me to this day, I just cannot move past, that holds me back from thinking that this whole thing is a psychological experiment being done on us, is the way YouTube promoted that subject. Because if it was something that the government and the powers that be did not want us to see, why was YouTube promoting it every time I was on there? Why was it coming up recommended for you when I wasn't even in anything like that subject? How many of you were just looking at something else? In my case, it was bass fishing or something, and YouTube is promoting Flat Earth Clues. I can't get past that. And then everything that's transpired in the past year with the people that started the large channels and the things that you see go on, I can't help but feel like we're being manipulated, almost like it's a government-run psychological experiment to see how we're going to react, to see the way the different people form different groups and infighting. I feel like we're being watched, almost like a government experiment. I really have a strong feeling that this whole thing is some kind of psyop to watch us, to separate us, to keep an eye on us. I don't believe the Earth is a spinning ball. However, the whole truth movement is bogged down now in this. I mean, when you first find out about it, you're excited. You feel like you're a part of a new group of friends that are somehow special because you know something more than the average person, and you have to go out and share it and tell everybody. But at the same time, the subject can be a big distraction. People get so sucked up into it and the drama and the hours and hours long hangouts. I'm not saying anything bad about it, what is it that they are distracting us from? What is the bigger picture? In my case, it took me away from my spirituality that I was into at the time. I got sucked back into the 3D paradigm here of the earth and the shape of the earth and the dynamics of space and whether or not there's a dome, whether or not space is real or fake, whether or not there's an ice wall. It's fascinating. And when you first find it out, you look at the clues and you're like, oh, this is so exciting. But then now, a year and a half, a couple of years later, it really hasn't gone anywhere. So we say, we have to do something. We have to spread the word. We have to go on these big trips and hit the ground running. And I think it's wonderful to spread knowledge. But what is it that they're watching us for? What is it that they're keeping us distracted from? I really have a feeling there's a lot more to this that we haven't found out. Let's put it that way. We have not found out what it is that.
Well, touche to Lori Gale, because she's on the right path.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyway, it's worth watching. It's only 11 minutes long, so it's worth watching. It's mirrored on Flat Earth Vancouver, who is.
Yeah, and Lori Gale has a channel too. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ronnie, you've been skeptic. What have you got now? Stop sharing, please, Lawrence.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So
You haven't, but you keep trying. Okay.
there we are.
Okay, Ronnie, what do you got?
Well, I'd like to comment a little bit on that clip.
Okay.
I find that Lori Gale is she seems very genuine, and she's always been not always with the crowd. She seems to fly a little counter to the crowd. She made some great points there. I think the algorithms that are designed by YouTube have to do with the clicks and searches that you personally make with your IP. So and also I'll just add a caveat to that would be YouTube has offered if I would like to support my channel and promote it, if I pay them, let alone the other sites. YouTube.
Right.
Do you guys know about that?
Yeah, that's right. I'm just going to move around.
Yeah, you can buy, they got to actually have that new thing. What's it called? Something with a P, like Pandora, Piona, whatever it's called. That is a paid channel where people actually buy a subscription, pledge $1 a month. Or Lawrence, what in the heck?
I've had to move because.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm just going to mute you because he's like the camera psycho today. Yeah, so that, people are starting channels. I saw Mark Sargent started one that is, contribute $1 or contribute $2, whatever it is, and that's just a monthly pay thing.
Yeah. Well, I think the YouTube was offering to, if you pay them, how much you're willing to pay them is how much they're willing to paste your channel.
Yeah, in the recommended videos section over on the side, right?
Who knows? Yeah, that plus I think maybe they have a way that it just algorithmically they guarantee you're going to get, let's say, 1 million views on one of your videos. But it all seems to be about money and business. Do you guys notice that?
Sure, always. It's always about money. I mean, I would be remiss the minute I say about money to not say something about this Pokemon Go thing. Talk about distractions. Holy crap. I mean, how many millions of dollars has Nintendo made over the last week? I think their stock went up, I don't know, 7.5 points or something, and whatever it is. I mean, it's just phenomenal numbers of the tens of millions probably hundreds of millions of people by now have downloaded this app and are wandering around playing Pokemon Go. I don't even know what it is. I don't even know how it works. I don't do apps. I don't do phone. So, pardon me, but it sure does seem like the distraction of a lifetime. But it also seems like these guys were probably able to accomplish what the Patriot Act wasn't able to, and that is get in everybody's phone, get in everyone's, whatever they do while they're on their phone when they're playing this game. So, technology, in Laura, on behalf of what Lori Gale said, technology, is there's which came first, the chicken or the egg? Are they trying to create a psyop, or are they just trying to make money off of something that was happening virally anyway? It's really hard to guess at this point.
Well, and you've seen a lot of major YouTube channels actually, doing videos on this topic.
What, on Flat Earth?
On Pokemon, I've seen.
Pokemon. You're
Russian
kidding, are they?
I've Russian vids. Who else? A whole bunch of people.
Feeding the flames.
Christians, all different types of anybody who has a substantial amount of subscribers definitely covered this, this Pokemon game, like David Weiss, and it's all about catching predators, because the game it enables you to go out into public, and it just seems like absolute garbage to me.
Well, it does, and you know what? It's like you remember in the beginning of the Flat Earth sort of movement of this last year, at the beginning there were all of these people calling each other shills, and then every week there was a new shill, and there was a new somebody pointing the finger at somebody, and a new drama. Well, it's like that in everything now, okay? Flat Earth kind of stabilized and then became quite static, I believe. And then the next thing you know, here's the Mandela effect,
Yeah.
And it's just another thing to bring people into talking about a topic and distracting them. And so I haven't spent much time at all on the Mandela effect. For the real reasons, I really don't have time to get into another topic like this at all. So
yeah,
I'm having as much fun and interest on this one topic and its associated topics to probably spend the rest of my lifetime learning new stuff.
Totally.
Ronnie, did you catch the show earlier when we talked about that route that guy who was who worked in Antarctica as a breakfast cook, how the journeys the aircraft journeys he took to get there? Did you catch that?
No, I didn't catch that.
Well, let me briefly show you, because you'll love this. Let's bring it up again. This is the biggest nail ever in the Gleason map. Now let me bring it up again. What's happened here?
Should I click on your link? Yeah.
You have to click on what you want to share first before you click screen share. Okay, Lauren.
Bloody thing.
I'm gonna tutorial you this for the rest of your life, I have a feeling, but sooner or later you might do this in the right way.
There we go. Got it now. Just a minute.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, just a minute. You've got it now.
Just a minute. There we go. File. Open. What was it? Gleason latest. So there we go.
Bermuda Triangle.
No. That was something else that you missed. Okay, so if you look at this map here, Ronnie, yeah. So the guy flew from Denver. Let's draw it out again. Flew from Denver, which is there, over to San Francisco, and then from San Francisco down to LA, and then from LA all the way up to Sydney, and then from Sydney to Christchurch, and then from Christchurch to McMurdo Station. Okay, guess where he was going?
I don't know.
He was going to Amundsen. So he's flown all that way, God knows how far that is, probably about 20,000 miles. And now he's going to fly another 24,000 miles to Amundsen on this map. Now, does that make any sense to you at all?
No, this is something that's being...
People that continue to promote this map when you've just seen that, you know, if it's just such a big joke that nobody in their right mind would actually go ahead and continue to promote this map. So what do you say to the likes of Bob Xanadu and Jeranism and Mark Sargent and Eric DeBay and what's his name, Subiratsky? What do you have to say to them if they continue to promote this map?
Well, I guess I'm going to continue to bring up the issues. I have been, but as you guys know, that it's almost like talking to a wall, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it's the same exact, what do you call it, cognitive dissonance coming from a flat earther when you try to get them off their map as you get from a glober when you try to get them off the globe.
It might even be worse.
It might even be worse.
Because now they know, like we know, we're awake. We know now, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, they actually have told me you are doing damage to the flat Earth movement because you are showing the weaknesses of our, you know, theory and our maps and everything, and you're helping them to debunk us. Really? You think they don't freaking know that this map is a joke? Come on. Yeah. How am I helping them? I'm helping us to get us off of this map so that we can move on to either a theory or a map that actually does work and does represent reality, or at least isn't going to make us a laughing stock and get us crucified by the mainstream media when and if they come out after having amassed millions or even hundreds of thousands or even tens of thousands of flat earthers, and then suddenly they come out with their big ta-ta-da debunk, and then they drop their mic, and that's the end of flat Earth forever.
Well, that's what I seen coming myself a while ago. I figured, you know, if Eric Dubay and such and Robotham. Well, you know, I'll bring it to Robotham. If Robotham was debunked and we ended up believing in the globe Earth, there must have been a reason. So I thought to myself, could it have been that the system and model that was suggested by Robotham was set up to fail?
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
You know, and so what I then went, after making that conclusion, was to how is it wrong? And how can I beat them to the punch so that when I reveal it, I continue on the flat Earth topic and not take us back to some spinning globe?
Right. I agree with you 100%.
And I even caught in Eric Dubay's newest video. I don't know if this is him just plagiarizing his own book. I mean, reading his own book and then putting video to it. Is that what he does with his videos? I don't know if you know.
Well, I don't know. I haven't watched an Eric Dubay video since he called me. Put me on the shill wall of shame a year and a half ago.
Oh, well, I tend to. Has Lawrence watched any of his?
Oh, I'm sure he's watched some. I mean, he has time to watch a lot of videos during the day because he works from home doing his work. I don't.
Well,
I go out during the day.
Isn't it? Because he's an actor.
But I wouldn't watch any of Dubay ever since the last one that I did watch that somebody posted in the group that was him doing some kind of a psycho rappy rock song with doing all these faces and everything. I was like done, really done, cooked done.
Yeah, he went a little bit crazy for sure. You know, I'm gonna share with you his most recent video. Now, I've posted my videos where Eric can see it. I don't know if he's ever watched it. I could care less who watched my videos. I always want to share them, but I don't care. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
So this is his most recent video, and I was just like flabbergasted that he put this out a couple days after mine, because right here he's got our time. So he's saying engineers are better trying to figure out the fact that the Earth is flat than trying to spend our time trying to square the circle. So my video was called, Squaring the Circle.
Right.
Which
Interesting.
Yeah, so, I don't know if this was written in his book, which I should go back and try and find. It'd be interesting to see, because if it was written in his book, and he wrote that over a year ago, then he quite well knows that squaring the circle and the circle being a square is actually a reality.
Right. And it's also a term used by the Freemasons.
But, yeah, and if you understand how the temple's laid out and the way that our world works, then you know that we live on a square, or what would be the diamond-shaped map is also very valid. Right. Well, there's definitely four corners, whether they're obtuse, the angles we don't know. And I've been trying to share this with so many people, as well as you see the ecliptic plane and how the sun and Mercury, and actually today I believe Mercury and Venus are transiting in Cancer.
Okay, I really don't follow. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's right above. They're transiting each other right above the Washington D.C. The phallic, what's it called? The monument.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and I tried to explain to people that. I'll show you another clip after. But as you can see, the stars moving here from left to right. I don't know how.
Play there, Ronnie. You've only got a little bit.
You can't see it, eh? Try and make it a little bit larger. Can you see it now?
No, we need the full screen.
I don't think it'll. This site won't go to full screen.
No, you need full screen on this screen for us to watch, because we can't see anything here.
I can't give him full screen because.
Hang on, I'll try again. Hold on.
Yeah. He can only have his screen. I don't have control to give him full screen. I mean, I give him full screen, but that's as full as it gets.
Okay, let's see. Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little better.
It's about 1 inch square on mine.
Unfortunately, I don't know why, but it shows basically how the sun and the moon move. So I guess from east to west, and the way that they dance throughout the sky. Why is it freezing on me now?
Yeah, it's freezing up on you a little bit.
Technical difficulties. Yeah, I'm probably being hacked. No, I'm kidding. Okay, you can see them moving now.
Okay, Matt Powerland.
Yeah. You can see them moving, right? They basically do an S shape from east to west.
It's like a sine wave. Interesting.
But yes, exactly like a sine wave. Now, what's interesting about it is where the planets and the moon and the sun and everything cross, and we put that on top over the square or the diamond shaped map. You can draw, pictures. And I've been explaining this to people, and I've been asking them, how could you show me a story playing out with a ball and the Earth spinning around and the stars not moving? Because it's quite clear that these planets and the luminaries in the sky are definitely doing some sort of a dance. I'm not getting any response to why it works on a flat square map, and it would never, like, basically this going around in a circle wouldn't give you, you wouldn't be able to even depict these drawings on a circular map.
Right, because we're spinning and flying and vortexing and flying.
Yeah, okay, but then I'm asking you, if I can draw a square map with east, west, north, and south, and I can make, wherever the crossings happen, I can draw pictures. If you were to then try to put a circular map with the AE and everything spinning around in circles, you wouldn't get the same. You wouldn't have any drawings. They'd be like over here, they would be so far spread out.
Right. In other words, you're saying you wouldn't be able to connect the dots into any kind of a formation or any kind of a movement pattern or anything like that. That's what you're saying.
Yes, you wouldn't get the same depiction. You wouldn't be able to get the Star of David or, the Vesica Pisces, or the Flower of Life is even drawn out by using the transits of these motions here that I'm showing.
I've seen that actually.
which is incredible. You would not get, like, the only way you get that with the circle map is the one that they. It's all been, what's the word? Just totally misrepresented.
Right.
I gotta relax. One second. So basically, if I bring back, I just wanted to give everybody a kind of a short example. The feng shui compass and the ancient Chinese believed in. I believe I demonstrated this before, that the Earth was a flat square with four corners. Now, what I've been looking at is, can you see this screen, Lawrence?
Yeah, I can see it now. I've pressed it. Yeah.
Okay. You see the equator here, and the west and the east, the south and the north, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So basically, anywhere traveling on the Earth. Okay, if I had this device here and I was holding it and I was floating it in water, so the spherical shape you're seeing on the outside is the heavenly sphere, or the what we can see in the sky. So east being here, you can see where my cursor is showing the path of the sun.
Right.
Now the North Pole is being on this angle here. Now, Flat Earth Math and a bunch of other really bright people have tried to. I've tried to explain this to them. They tried to ask me how you could have the North and the South. So, if I was standing in China or anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, this is basically between the equator, within 30 degrees of the equator. You have the North Pole here. Now, moving southwards with this same device floating in water, as you would move towards the equator, this arching line, the equator, would then be parallel at your 12 o'clock, right? Are you with me, or?
Trying to stay with this. I'm kind of with you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, if you were to take this device and move into the southern parts of the world, anywhere from east to west, and you were to align the Southern Cross with the southern end of this spherical demonstration, you would still be able to depict your longitude and latitude on a flat Earth. And this would only work with the way that the Earth is actually set up with the four corners. This does not work on a ball or on an AE map.
Okay.
This is
I'd have to. This is kind of like free energy stuff. I'd have to maybe watch it a couple of times or have it explained to me a couple of times. But I'm with you on understanding what you're trying to explain here, I think.
So probably what a good thing to do with that would be to show how the star trails and the constellations, how they would show up on the flat Earth, a square or a diamond one, and how they would actually come up on an AE map, and then you could compare and contrast the two to give us a better idea. But I've got the gist of what you're saying.
Look how many people. I guess what he's saying here is he's comparing his versions of, let's say, for example, all the times we've seen people put things like the Ring of Fire, alignment of the volcanoes called the Ring of Fire, and replace them or place them on the AE map, and they don't make a ring at all. They make a line down through, down across Earth. Yeah. And so the difference in the, I've seen people say, oh, well, here's where the sun goes around in a circle, and oh, look, this is where the water is warmest right here. Well, the water's warmest right there because it's at the equator, which is, an AE map would represent the water being warmer at the equator naturally because it is, right?
Yeah.
All you did was move the equator around into a circle instead of from a straight line. They both work, is the point.
Well, yeah, as long as you have four corners.
Right. Well, and that's the point. You have to, what I'm trying to say is that whatever you're observing on the globe, and the flat Earth square or diamond and the AE. If the AE was correct, it would match the globe. If the diamond was correct, it would match the globe. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they've basically back engineered
Right.
the results, but they can't actually do the observational experiments as well as. So maybe as we're talking in a minute, I'll pull up a little bit of a geometry lesson, or maybe the viewers at home, if you're listening on the internet with a computer, you could do your own search. If you look up different ways that you can observe a square, there are multiple angles and shapes that you can. So if you're looking at a Lego piece on an angle, you're going to get a twisted rectangle. There's so many different ways to explain geometry and shapes than just saying a circle or a square. This is another problem in the flat Earth. People are just so generalized down to things that they're not being able to explain. So I guess I'll do a video where if I move this apparatus around, it definitely demonstrates, because people are stating that if we were on a flat Earth, there'd be no way to calculate your longitude and latitude. And this device I'm saying right here is foolproof. It actually gives you a better position on the Earth than any globe model could ever dream of doing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you see this shape here, and this map that everybody's familiar with, right?
I have never seen this map before. What is this map?
Well, I guess it's still a squarish rectangle. They've just
Right.
so the heavens above are round.
Where
Right.
does this illustration come from?
I guess this one is known the world in the time of Claudius Ptolemy. Yeah,
Okay.
but so you have the four winds and basically how they have people depicted as blowing the winds, but as you can see, the motions of the celestial luminaries move from east to west, and
Mhm.
as they die in the east, they are born anew in the west, from the west to the east. This is something that's been generally shown throughout our history. This is the best way of understanding our reality. It's not a spinning ball or a completely connected circle, because we don't have the measurements for the other half of this map.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna kind of didn't have the presentation proper. If you guys give me 1 minute, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea of trying to cross-reference all of this different information to try to come up with what is the one thing where all of these things share. In other words, you don't have to tweak. Once you've combined all the information, see, that's the problem. People come up with a hypothesis and then they try to fit the information to it, or find the proofs to prove their thought hypothesis. So when you the more information that you add in, if something can't be added to this hypothesis, then either the information's wrong or the hypothesis is wrong. So I like looking at as many different, some people would say, ooh, feng shui, that's anti-Christian, or that's, pagan this, or old Chinese that, and that's not of God, or I don't know. I've heard all kinds of things that they poo-poo that information. Being afraid of information, it really doesn't make any sense when you're trying to do research. So, so Ronnie is looking in, one direction. Lawrence is looking in another direction. I'm looking and each of us. And the problem is, instead of us all combining our information, we're ending up in factions. And divided. So I don't know what the solution to that is. I don't know what we're going to be able to ever do about that as long as there's, division and confusion. So what else do you have, Lawrence? Do you have anything while we're waiting for...
One thing I have noticed is that those people that try to hang on to the false model, they're very desperate now, and the best they can come up with is, well, look at the climate compared to between the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. Right. And somebody posted a picture of Fairbanks Airport in Alaska with a big sign up saying the temperature was 100 degrees. So I actually went and had a look at the historic data on that, and it made some... it was very interesting. Let me show you. Fairbanks Airport. Let me just bring this up.
That's pretty.
This is in Alaska. It's about, I think the latitude is about 65 north, and it's here. Okay, so what you've got here are the average temperatures and the lows and the highs. So this is only 65 north. It's a long way from the North Pole. And in January, the record low in 1969 is minus 60. Yeah. So and in December 1961, minus 66. So when people say, well, it's a lot colder in the south than the north, it doesn't bear close inspection, because if you've got minus 66 at this latitude, you're going to have considerably colder if you go another 25 degrees north. The record highs do make, there must be some other explanation, because you're getting these highs of 88, 94, 92. These are very, you very rarely get temperatures like that in the UK, where we're, 15 degrees further south. So there must be some other factors that causes higher temperatures in Alaska. So you've got a range of minus 66 to plus, to nearly 100. But this
one of those guys in Ronnie's map, with the people blowing, somebody ran out of air, and the movement of air changed.
Yeah, I could add to that quickly, Lawrence, Lori.
I know I say things really weird sometimes, but
whoever thinks that the Antarctic is colder than the North, they've never been to Winnipeg, because there was a couple days in Winnipeg, Canada, that it was supposedly colder than Mars.
Really? Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me. I mean, we've had some seriously weird weather shifts, Yeah, and we're more north than the UK or than Lawrence would be, and we've had temperatures above. It felt, they said, like over 100 2 or 3 days ago. So, and lastly, the McMurdo scientist from the AE group, I can't remember his name. Really nice guy. Yeah, blah. He's a little bit. I'd like to see if a little bit more enthusiasm in the guy. He's been pretty gifted to go all over the plane, and he just seems so blah. He needs to get a little it's
spirit.
Interesting that you say that, because he has a delivery that is incredible. He just blah, 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 blah. I mean, he's just out. He doesn't even have to stop and think about anything. He's just like reciting almost. I hate to say the guy's scripted, but it's kind of sounds scripted.
Well, when he was doing his presentation on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, I was absolutely just floored when I seen him saying that everybody shaves their head. I'm thinking, this guy's going to Antarctica, or is he going to Hawaii? Because here in Canada, when it gets cold, we grow our hair and we grow our beards.
So everybody shaves their head. What do you think that's about?
Yeah.
Hygiene?
And that he was in T-shirt in some of the footage, a lot of the footage. Not only that, this guy's been one of the biggest debunkers of the ice wall, because there's only 2 or 3 out of 1,000 photographs where there is an ice wall, and he's in the Antarctic supposedly, and there's all kinds of penguins and seals and. But for me, I guess those were my 2 biggest things. Why would you shave your head if you're going somewhere that's sub-temperatures? And how was he not cold? The guy wasn't cold at any of his trips to the Antarctic, but yet they say that it's so desolate and frigid,
Well, I mean, did he go there for a year or did he just go there for a season? Because, you know, a lot of these people, like the guy, the breakfast cook guy, he, you know, it sounded like he just the first time he went there, or that he got extended, that he only went there for summer, Antarctic summer.
I think he went
And
there
it
a
is
couple of
quite a
times. Yeah.
different weather-wise between the few months of Antarctic summer and winter.
Well, you know, it just doesn't work on their A map because of also the sun speed and the distance around the supposed. You know, it's impossible. You know,
It is
it's,
impossible. And you know what? I still can't believe I fell for it for as long as I did, which really wasn't that long, all things considered, but still, um, it didn't really dawn on me until a few questions arose that I could not answer, that I had to go looking for the answers, that I was like, something wrong here. You know, that and that whole thing of certain things we don't speak of, like
yeah,
24-hour sun, or the long flights that it would have to take to go from Sydney to Santiago, or any of that information. That, you know, Mark Sargent did a whole lot of took a whole lot of effort to try to debunk that those flights even exist. You know, bringing up the fact that they drop off the radar, and bringing up the fact that, you know, you try to go online and book these flights and you can't even book them, and you know, videos of people calling up saying, "Oh, I'm trying to book this," calling the travel agent. "I'm trying to book this flight, and oh well, we're sorry, that flight, you know, we don't have that right now," or something. Now, I can pretty much understand that you wouldn't have a flight to McMurdo in June, maybe, because it's freaking cold there, and how many people, you know, I think it'd be pretty hard to book a whole flight full of people.
yeah.
But, you know, heck, just not that long ago, I read a big article about the Bill Gates and his somebody else both met down in South America, Ushuaia, or however you say that word, and then they were taking their fancy yachts down to around Antarctica, and they were going to some off the beaten path places. So that was this past winter, I remember, because it was summer there. And people were like, "Oh, they get to go, but the rest of us don't get to go. Nobody else gets to go. How come those guys don't get shot out of the water?" And I'm like, where did this shot out of the water thing come from? And why is this keep being perpetuated? When was the last time you heard of anybody being shot out of the water? You know, people bring up that berserker boat guy, Jarl Anderhoy, and whatever happened with him, as if that is the end all be all. To do not attempt to breach the ice wall. You will be, no warning, you'll be shot right out of the water. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I don't quite recall.
I mean, have you heard people repeat this, that you can't go to Antarctica?
Yeah, well, Math Powerland was one of the first on the Brazen Path with Jarl Yandahoy, how he was murdered and terrorized, and you know they
No,
two of
his
team.
crew, right? A couple members of his crew were killed, dead, whatever. I mean, you can read the reports. You can. There was a trial.
Well, and there's also the same thing in the north. There was a few people that tried to do expeditions over the north, and they were also as well shut down.
Okay. Well, I can understand that, because the far, far north is also a part of the treaty, and it is controlled by the military, both of I believe, the U.S. and Russia, right? And maybe China.
Well, they got
the control. It's military.
Well, they have the dew line. They have a
Right.
border to border right across northern Canada and Alaska. Right, it's a wall of. I believe it's what is it, a radar system?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yes.
who knows? It could be multiple different things going on there. But what's
Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't know. Maybe you just can't go there because you literally can't go there. Doesn't
well,
go
there
anywhere.
there could be a void there. I'm not
Well,
questioning it.
or you could just go there and then find yourself over here
Well,
instantaneously.
well, if we look
How
to
would
the
you know if you were, okay, let's just say, all right, you're walking across a big void of ice. There's not really anything landmarky to look at, okay? It's freezing, it's cold, it's snowing, you got crappy visibility. And then you're walking and you're walking, and then suddenly you're walking, but you're not where you were a little while ago. How would you know how you got from where you were to where you are in this condition? Okay, so I'm just saying, I don't like to make up fairy tales or make up sci-fi stuff, but if there is some sort of impenetrable wall or transport kind of thing where only we can go there, you can't go there, you can't go there in your meat suit, okay, then you can't go there. It doesn't have anything to do with military. They're just preventing you from going there, perhaps because you can't go there. They don't want you to know that. Dead silence.
I've got something.
Okay.
Just a minute. Just going back to Antarctica.
The North has just a big.
Going back to Antarctica. So this is the aircraft that the Americans used, flying between the bases in Antarctica, and it's a Hercules. It's a turboprop. It's got 4 engines. Now this will be the plane that flew between McMurdo and the one right at 90 degrees, the Amundsen Scott. And then if you look at the performance information on it, which is on here somewhere, just bear with me a second, you'll see that the range is nowhere near enough to actually do it. So look. Specification.
I'm looking there for. Sorry.
Here we go. So here we go. Here's the specifications. It's got crew capacity, performance. Here we go. Cruising speed, 400 mile an hour. Range, 3,334 kilometers. Well, if the
Or
Gleason
1,800 nautical miles at max normal payload, 34,000 pounds, blah, blah,
that
kilograms.
plane flew 24,000 miles, if the Gleason map is correct. How did it do that?
Oh, that's a very good question, Lawrence. It's a mystery.
Maybe it travels at like supersonic speed. Maybe it doesn't travel at 400 miles an hour. Maybe it travels at 4,000 miles an hour.
Maybe the government tells us that it can only go 400 miles an hour, but secretly it's Mach 7.
Yeah. I think David Weiss would agree with you on that.
This is the kind of stuff that ticks me off.
Because if it was daily service,
the numbers.
400 mile an hour to do 24,000 miles. That's how long is it going to take?
Well, I guess it's gotten to the point where we have to quadruple verify everything that everybody says, reads, writes, puts out, everything. You can't believe anything anywhere anybody says. So from now on, every time you want to make a statement and someone will say or can say, do you have proof of that? Link me. Okay? And you can't just give them one link. You have to provide 4. Look where we are, where we would be, or where we are. I mean, we're kind of there, aren't we?
We're there, yeah. We tell everything as it is, and if we make a mistake, we admit it. So, Times New Roman, yeah, that was wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, the point is that you scoured the map and didn't just take it at face value. You looked at everything and tried to, and something caught your eye that said, maybe this map isn't authentic to 92, and
Yeah.
perhaps since it was only donated a few years ago to the Boston Museum, that perhaps somebody created it in some CIA basement, and when they got done laughing, they donated it to the Boston Museum. Same with that one from that Chinese one from 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, somebody just happened to be reading a publication from.
Somebody just happened to be digging around, and I actually said that, Lawrence, and somebody said, "Well, it was probably a flat earther doing research."
Yeah, you'd be researching the Hawaiian Gazette, which has probably got a circulation of about 500. I mean, it just doesn't bear thinking about. It's just so ridiculous.
It doesn't matter where it came from.
I'm researching the flat Earth. Look, I'm going to dig out the 1907 copy of the Hawaiian Gazette to see if I can find something about the flat Earth. It'd be a bit like you, Laurie, saying, "Well, you know what? I'm going to go down to Kentucky and find some remote town in Kentucky and get a local weekly newspaper from the year 1842 to see if I can find something about the flat Earth."
Right. Go through one of those ancient, musty old books and see if I can find something about the flat Earth in there. Now, perhaps. Now, I wouldn't do that, but, perhaps somebody did that. So, even I do try to give it the most extreme benefit of the doubt, whatever it is. But that still doesn't mean I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to just absorb it and say, well, this is what they said, because I feel like I am my own personal Snopes. Okay? That's an inside joke. Sorry.
Yeah.
Snopes said it. It must be right. So, okay. So, back to Antarctica, all right? If Antarctica is the reverse of the Arctic to the most degree that it can be, insofar as it is the opposite end. They're both cold. They both have extreme variations between summer and winter. But now, so here's this one little tweaky thing, okay? When the video first came out of this sun that went around the guy who was filming it, okay, in Alaska, or he says he was in the Arctic, okay? The Arctic Circle extends down into Canada quite a bit, doesn't it, Ronnie? The Arctic Circle.
I think you've turned his mic off.
Maybe he's gone for a minute. Anyway, yeah, because it goes down into Greenland, it goes into Russia, so it extends down from the northernmost point quite a bit. So when you think about, okay, here's this guy who says he made this video of the sun going around him and staying above the horizon for 24 hours in the Arctic, okay? You have another person who says the same thing happened to them in the Antarctic. Those who said, no way, that can't possibly happen in the Arctic, I was one of them who said, how can this be possible? That would mean that if this person is in the north and the sun goes north of them, what the hell? That means they're either seeing it from the other side, okay? In a globe situation, I could see where you could possibly, that would happen, right? But on a flat Earth, how does that happen? So people say, well, because the center of the flat Earth is sun circling that North Pole, okay? But the sun doesn't go any further north, supposedly, than the Tropic of Cancer, which is below me in Florida. I mean, it's below me, and I see the sun rising and setting northeast and northwest. So what the hell? Okay, so that means the sun is farther north than what they're telling us. that that's BS about the Tropic of Cancer, or that the sun's reflecting off of something. We've talked about this in the past. Is there another sun? So all of these questions have to come into play when this new information is introduced. So people had their, they bought into, okay, if the circle of the center is in the, North Pole and the sun's going around it, if that person stand there and just keeps turning around and watching it go around, okay. But then you go, well, then wouldn't it have to be concave? Because how does the sun stay above the horizon line, right? So all of these questions are still on the table, no matter what map you're looking at. But I'm telling you, I don't have a problem with the same phenomenon. If I'm going to accept the one in the north, I have to be prepared to accept the one in the south.
Yeah, I still think the sun doesn't go outside the two parameters of the tropics, because the shadows prove that, the straight line shadows. But obviously that we are visually seeing the sun set in places that it shouldn't be set in, bearing in mind that we're a lot further north of it, or other people will be south of it. So for me the sun's got to be smoke and mirrors, and it's reflecting off something else in some way that that we can't comprehend. Just like that video you posted earlier this week, Laurie, where somebody put a picture of some cubes in front of a mirror. When you looked in the mirror, the cubes turned into cylinders.
Yes. And that was an optical illusion. People thought there was something optically different about the mirror, but what it turned out to be was the shape of the top of the cylinder square, and the angle in which you placed it in front of the mirror changed whether it looked like a square box or a circle tube or whatever, cylinder. So I see Ronnie's got a new picture posted up here. What do you got, Ronnie?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just see if I can. You can see this. Let me see if I can make it a little bit more. So basically, we've got a square or a rectangle, and we've got it a little bit off kilter with the east and the south and the west. Sorry. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you could imagine, north, the east, and the south, and the west are more of a general area, and not so much as a direct point. Even though the compass still aligns to those areas, you could imagine that the sun would rise and set generally in these areas. And I think this is another issue that people are not understanding, is that what we think is north, east, south, and west, the way we've been programmed, isn't truly how it is. I don't know if you guys are noticing this with other flat earthers.
No, I agree. I agree with you that it's pretty hard to completely take all the brainwashing out of all of the visuals and indoctrination that we've had our whole lives, and stop thinking 100% the way we used to. It's pretty hard.
Right. Tell us some more about this, Ronnie. It sounds quite interesting, mate.
Well, it's just so far what I've been postulating and just pondering in my own mind, that if these are just more of general areas, and the actual diamond or square, the four corners of the earth, aren't really achievable, we have to start to look at ways that we can express the rising and setting and the movements of the heavens above. And I think the off-hilter also explains the tilt, because there's the tilt of the sky as it rises from east to west, and everybody can see that, and that's, it's a globe. That was the first explanation they were able to postulate with the reason of the tilt. And what I'm theorizing is that it might actually be more of an off-kiltered square. Are you guys with me?
Yeah. They
know,
had to add that 23.4 degree tilt for a reason. They said that was for the seasons.
Yeah, in the Chinese lore and their ancient history, it was said that one of the gods, or God himself, actually stamped down the earth, so therefore the heavens were then shifted it's basically a bow. The sky above is like an arc or a bow around us. I don't think there's a firmament or hard, because raka, it meant vast emptiness. It meant void, and you got people like Rob Skiba stating that it meant polished brass, furnished hard shell, when really the etymology of the word leads you back to void or emptiness, which is quite interesting.
Well, that term rakia has been described by every different person a different way. I mean, it's the most translated word I've read yet.
Yeah. Can you guys see this screen here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is another one of the revelations that I found. Again, you see this. This basically is DC, which I'm sure you and your listeners are well aware of. This on the right is what is known as Metatron's cube. Now, I've been screaming at Enter the Stars and a bunch of other people that theorize and symbolize, and I'm like, well, this cube here is perfectly symmetrical. It houses all of the movements of the planets and the stars. All of the alignments are set. And this is only created when using a four-cornered piece of paper with the sun and the moons transiting above, whereas Mercury marks the outermost marks, and Venus, and then basically you square and you compass, and you can draw this. And this is also the same shape as the pyramid. The chambers are aligned in the same way as these other lines are aligned. You got this triangle, basically, as you can see, with the cube inside of it would be Earth. You even have the pentagon, and you could notice that the tip of everything is pointed to the north, right? And again, this is only possible with basically a four-cornered flat Earth. And nobody's really, really understanding this. I'm trying to share this with as many people as possible. As you can see, the sun would move across on this line here, and basically you have your boundaries marked out by the points of the stars. You have all types of different astronomical things that are happening above us being depicted on the ground and in the pyramids. And the New Jerusalem is also a cube.
Beautiful, right there. It's I watched a video years ago about Washington D.C. occult, Masonic, Illuminati symbology all over the city, and I mean it's absolutely incredible how laid out that city is.
Yeah, Ronnie, that one you've got there, leave that screen on. If you look at the blue line in the middle, the blue triangle, and the red one beneath it, those are the dimensions of the Calignan map.
Yeah, and as above, so below.
The top of that square is the Calignan map.
Right.
The top of the cube. It's like we're on the top of a cube.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And this would be the underworld, and that's why with the pyramids, you see how they had the underworld would be the subterranean chamber where the water would pump in with the heartbeat of the earth. Then it would then create this chemical process that would then turn this pyramid into a breathing, functioning energy source. And then if you look at what they're doing in Washington, in D.C. here, is they're just basically representing this on the flat earth.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen this ever before? Or
I actually have, yes.
I've seen the Washington stuff, but I haven't looked at it in any detail, Ronnie. But
but have they showed you Metatron's cube?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah.
You have. So it's also showing basically the Christmas tree, what you're honoring when you set up your Christmas tree. It's showing the cube, which would have been Enoch's Earth, inside of the circles that would have been the planetary spheres that would circle around when graphed out on the floor. I've seen people break it down and show the pentagon shape, but I've never seen anyone explain. And this Metatron's cube is also referenced to being God in the Hebrew. Like this is a Hebrew symbol. It's also the flower of life. It's also the tree of what's the man that Leonardo da Vinci drew? The
Vesuvian.
Vesuvian man. It's all here. It's all right here in this shape. Now I'm postulating that basically this is what we live in, and the heavens and everything above are what's laid out here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that looks pretty awesome, mate. You know, but it'll probably need to look more into it and try and break it down so that it's easier to digest. But yeah, those sort of shapes are resonating with me.
And screw the Masons. Shame on them for ever, using this against people and not sharing the truth of what this really is.
Is it on the dollar bill as well? I know there's a pyramid on it, but what else? Is there anything else on the dollar bill that's flat Earth related that you can remember?
I know there's the Order of Chaos.
Yeah, Ordo. Anyway, it's Vitruvian Man. It's not Vesuvian Man.
Yeah, Vitruvian.
Yeah, you guys got me in that.
I'll pull it up really quick.
Vitruvian Man. Yeah.
I'll pull it up here. I'll show you guys. Oh, that was not the Tree of Life, but it was the Kabbalistic chakras.
Yeah.
They're all inscribed. You see this Vitruvian Man, right, is basically, again, the cross. It's also the square being circled by the celestial heavens. It's all laid out right here. They've been secretly passing this tradition along in plain sight.
Well, but that's universal. The law of the universe, or what is it called? The universal law of order, or whatever. What is it called? Come on. Look, you get information overload every once in a while. Oh, the universal law of free will. That's it.
Yeah.
By that law, they have to tell us their secrets. They just don't have to tell us. So they have to show us in masqueraded little ways.
This is also DC. They're showing the design as well, and the Star of David, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when traced out above a square Earth, you get this. So basically, these two lines would be the tropics, and basically the ecliptic and everything. And this is another hidden power that nobody's talking. All these people, they're so great. God sent them to bust the New World Order, and they're not explaining to anybody that all they're doing here is just representing a chemical relationship with a physical Earth with the heavens above. That's all they're doing.
Well, not only that, but think about the architect and the planning of Washington, D.C., which is actually getting ready to try. I've been reading about this, to become the 51st state, and it's going to be called New Columbia.
Well, it already is it not?
Well, it's an independent state. It is not part of the United States. It's just the same as City of London and Vatican
Rome.
City.
The Vatican, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, a person could spend the rest of their life digging into the hidden symbols in Washington, D.C. alone.
Yeah, but
I'm sure in City of London, there's probably all kinds of hidden symbols there too, and Vatican City.
But you see what I'm suggesting, what it is. I'm not saying it's hidden. I'm saying they're just depicting the Earth in its space, in its time, with the movements of the heavens above. And you even have, I'll pull this up really quick, you have Manhattan. Even, by the way, the Stonehenge also works with the alignment and the astronomical.
Manhattan-henge, yeah.
Yeah, this is another one that it falls right in line with the cardinal directions, the four corners. All of these things are only possible when you understand the truth of our world.
Do you know about that, Lawrence? About Manhattan-henge?
No, I've never heard of it.
It what day of the year is it that the sun rises and sets?
Twice.
Solstice. They call it the Manhattan solstice.
East-West Streets. I'm trying to find the date here, but it happens twice a year, right? As it goes by.
Click on that one, Manhattan-henge Wikipedia. It says right there. They always keep the information out of it, so you have to click through.
May 28th, July 12th, which, coincides with all the chaos that we've seen ensued around these 2 dates.
Right. So, yeah, so Lawrence, the sun rise, see that picture? Go back just a little bit there, right there. The sun rises through those buildings perfectly to recreate a sort of Stonehenge.
And sets. This is the set. So
yeah.
This is looking west, right? Which is, again, if we're on a circling, if the sun is circling above, it would be off way away from where my cursor is. It's not another proof of the
right.
It might be arching, but it's not, it's not circling past the tropics and going way around the north. But I just hope people are understanding kind of what I'm trying to get at here with the Vitruvian Man and with the cube and with the layout. And basically, these are all, squares.
Well, I mean, we all know that Leonardo da Vinci was a Freemason, a pretty high up Freemason, and he drew a lot of illustrations that people thought they were inventions or whatever, but they actually were depictions of what I believe they were.
Yeah.
Depictions of information that they hid in the symbols.
Yeah, so certain times of the year, like today, directly above this point, Venus and Mercury transited each other. Which and the whole layout of the lawn and the buildings are the depiction of the 4 corners of the Earth with the sun's path right across, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Wild, isn't it?
Do you guys? What do you think, Lawrence?
Yeah, I agree with you, mate.
Does this work if we were going to twist this star around and align it to Polaris and, sorry.
Well, when you think about when you think about the universal law of free will, okay, those who are in control of the horizontal and the vertical of our systems, for lack of any other way to put it, the globalists, imagine then that we've been taught to call them that, or they've programmed us to call them that. Everything's global now, everything. Used to be things were world this and universal that, but now everything's global. Universal's still there, but anyway, they, to avoid a certain amount of karma, because we all get judged in the end, they give us a lot of information, a lot of truths, but they couch them in a way that is, you have to have a certain amount of knowledge and a certain amount of intelligence, and maybe a good gift of connecting the dots or puzzle piecing. And certain people have that. They just notice puzzle things, and so they share it with us in such a way that if we catch it, fine. If we don't catch it, well, too bad. You're not smart enough, so by virtue of you not having stopped us, you gave us permission to continue, to make you look like idiots.
Laurie?
Yeah, Lawrence.
Okay. Spare me a second.
Are you going to put me on a melon again this week, Lawrence?
No. Listen, no.
Okay,
I mean, look, we have a lot of viewers, and sometimes we can give information out that may be of help to them.
Okay.
And I focus on alternative health. This is very quick. So if you ever go to a dentist, there are 3 really bad things that you can do. Obviously, most people know about not having the mercury fillings or having fluoride treatments. But the most dangerous thing you could ever do at a dentist is have a root canal filling, because effectively that tooth is dead, and dentistry is the only profession that keeps a dead part of your stuff in the body. So, for example, if you've got an infected appendix, you wouldn't cover it in wax and cover it with a dental crown, would you? You'd take the thing out. And what happens with these people with root canal fillings is if you've got a healthy immune system, you're going to be okay for some time. But these teeth you cannot effectively disinfect a root canal because there's all these minute, tiny tubules that go around. And apparently, it's about 3 miles on a tooth, and these things pump out toxic poisons. And one survey found 97% of women with breast cancer had previously had root canal fillings, which is, so if you've ever had one and you get sick and nothing else works, then get that other tooth taken out. And onto another subject very quickly. I'm going to screen share again.
Okay, find the object first, and then select it, and then hit screen share.
Okay, I'm coming up. Right, so take a look at this picture here. Do you see that?
Oh.
That is my back. I had cancer all over my back, and that was about a week or so into the treatment. You can see there was tumours everywhere on my back, yeah? And I used a treatment called black salve. Now I'm going to show you my back 4 weeks later, and you can see the remarkable recovery. If you just bear with me a second.
Yeah.
There we go.
Or not to look at that picture very much longer.
Yeah, I know. But these are treatments that are suppressed. So then you can see my back, there's obviously some new pink skin there, but everything that you saw, that's the same part of my back. All that tumour had gone and it was healthy tissue again. Now, if I'd have gone to a regular doctor, pardon?
And this is with black salve only, and your amazing after balm elixir.
The after balm is just to help with the tissue regeneration, yeah. But basically, what it does, it reacts with unhealthy tissue and breaks down the membrane, which then allows the body's immune system to come in and attack the cancer. And ultimately, the cancer separates from the healthy tissue and pushes it out of the body, which is what happened with my back. So, you saw what it looked like.
Thanks for that, Lawrence. That's cool. I mean, another one of those, we're not flat earth all the time, but at the same time, there are certain things like that, if you learn about it before you fall into the trap, like the root canal one, for example. I've avoided that my whole life and never had to get one or never did get one. And I'm glad, but I do know a lot of people that have. So
yeah, there's millions and millions of Americans with them.
Don't go there. It's a trick. It's a trap. Okay. Actually, last week, Lawrence, by the way, you're just firing up a cigarette there. One of the comments from last week, I didn't bother to let it go through because it was one of those that didn't have anything to do with the topic, but someone said you need to tell Lawrence to start vaping instead of smoking tobacco. You want to tell people why you don't vape?
I've never tried it. But if you look at
for some reason, and I haven't tried it either. I was a smoker for 40 years, but I definitely don't think getting off of one addiction onto another makes a whole lot of sense, or turning one off for another. I know people who have chewed the Nicorette gum for like 30 years after they quit smoking because they are still addicted to nicotine, but I just don't get the vaping. It's just me, but it doesn't seem any more positively healthy than smoking tobacco if it's natural tobacco anyway. Not the packaged cigarettes. But.
Well, the creator made tobacco, did he not? He put tobacco on the planet. Oh, sorry, on the earth, on the plane. What else can you do with tobacco besides smoke it?
Yeah, actually, it's not an edible plant at all, is it? It probably would be poison if you ate it. Ugh, phooey. Okay, enough about health news. Thanks for jumping in there and saying that, though, Lawrence, because every once in a while we get new listeners.
Yeah, go Google root canal filling. root canal fillings, and look to Dr. Mercola. He's got an interesting little presentation on it. And Hal Huggins, who's a world famous dentist, he's got there's loads of stuff up there on it. But
so you're saying once you've gotten the root canal, there's kind of no going back. You should just go ahead and get that tooth pulled because it's dead.
I would have it removed, yeah, because that tooth is going to pump out poison into your body for the rest of your life because you can't clean it properly. And there's so much evidence to say that about.
All right, Ronnie's got a new map up there, it looks like.
Okay, over to Ronnie.
Ronnie, are you there? Are you still with us? I think he's muted himself. Maybe he mutes us talking while he's looking through his stuff. Uh-oh, he just dropped out. So that means his audio wasn't working. Okay, so he'll be back. So so the idea with, and I want to get back because we're getting close to ending here. The whole idea that we were focusing on today was Antarctica, and we did cover some new information, but I think one thing everyone should do, it's probably one of the most boring documents on the plane, but read the Antarctica Treaty and look at what it says and what its intentions are. We know that it's a made-up bogus thing because it's a UN agreement and it's between all of the industrialized nations with big militaries, and you have to be somebody countrywide wise big enough to even be a member or a signator of the treaty. So it would be interesting for us to know, all of us, what about that treaty says that you're going to get blown out of the water if you try to take a boat into anywhere in Antarctica that isn't designated. And then second of all, I invite people who won't have looked at it or chose not to look at it in the past to relook at Antarctica from with a new set of eyes, to see why this mythology is being perpetrated and continued about Antarctica being totally off limits to everybody but scientists and military, because it's just not true. People travel there, people vacation there. So we're getting close to, I think we're pretty close at the 3-hour mark. So do you guys have anything else you want to jump in with before we end? Or Ronnie, you got anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks again for having me on and being open-minded.
Yeah, good stuff, Ronnie. That's, I think you're the main man to finish the model off, because what's his name? Free Energy doesn't actually talk on what's it, so I think you're the man to find out what the above and below structure is for the flat Earth. I think you did a great job. Well,
there's quite a few people who think that, and Free Energy is the only one that can answer this question, but there's quite a few people that think now or speculating that Free Energy is a Mason and has some hidden Masonic information and is putting it out there slowly under the guise of flat Earth without a name and an identity. If that's the truth, if that's the case, then so be it. It probably will never show us his or her true identity, but there is a certain amount of explanation that has to go into these models. I mean, you just have to.
Yeah.
I think he has to have some inside information because he was so far ahead of everybody else. The very reason we're on this show tonight is because of Free Energy. Because I picked up on it, but nobody else was running with it. And I've spoken to him quite a few times on YouTube, but he never wants to show his face or actually say a word. So he's obviously doing it, as best he can. He probably wants to remain anonymous.
Yeah, I respect him still either way, and I'll continue to try to seek the truth with all of my friends and open-minded people like the two of you. And if Free Energy is watching the show, hey, we're all supportive here. There's no need to hide. He's done great things. I think you get credit for them. That's all. And so thanks for having me on.
Okay.
Cheers, Ronnie.
Thanks for coming on. We appreciate your input and your ideas and the different things you bring to the table. So thanks everybody for listening, and we hope that you join us again next week, and we'll try to advance the ball down the field a little bit further each time. And remember that the baseball field of play is a diamond.
And good
night, everybody.
Fair and square.
Good night.